Hello everybody, this is Lowman02. We just started the 100 card Singleton event, the Chainsaw Massacre. I will not be playing today. We'll be doing something slightly different that will involve me commentating on matches. So we'll get to watch a lot more games and hopefully, record some good ones. So, of interest today, we have SpencerBot playing blue-white control. We have a lot of White Weenie and Red Deck Wins decks. What I'm most curious about is to see what Michelle Wong is playing, and I don't have a problem looking right now, because I will not be playing her. Azorius Control. So we have two Azorius Control decks, basically two Azorius decks. Maverick, which is kind of like a hateful, but go over the top of aggressive decks. Twin, played by Signalis. White Weenie, Combo Control, Ooze, Blue-Black Control, and then some more red decks and White Weenie decks. Okay, so this game should be interesting. I think Azorius is favored, but Ironic is on the play. So Ironic's deck is more controlling in nature, and let me turn down my volume a bit. Is more controlling in nature than Standard Reanimator. However, I think it got a few too many dead cards in it. But that's not to say that her deck doesn't as well. She definitely has some clunkers in there. They're not going to be Wrath effects. This would be White Weenie versus Twin. I think it depends on how the Twin deck is built. Twin's matchup against White Weenie can vacillate from anywhere to 40-60 to 60-40, just either way, depending on how they've built the deck. So that's interesting. All right, Jace Vryn's Prodigy is a very good setup card for him, being on the play. Unless she has a Path to Exile or Swords to Plowshares, this thing will likely become large. So that's interesting to me. This is Azorius versus Red Deck Wins, which I wouldn't mind watching. The sideboard in this deck, which SpencerBot's playing, it's a deck I've built for the most part. I think he probably exchanged out 3 to 4 cards. Is very hateful. All right, well, Benko's playing White Weenie, actually. So this may be better, but I know Spencer's going to have Wrath effects in there, which I think Red Deck Wins is a better matchup in general versus the Azorius decks. So Lighthouse Chronologist, that card's kind of janky, but it does block very well. Not per se against the Signal Pest, but the Signal Pest doesn't really attack very well on its own. Alright, Grand Abolisher. Alright, that probably needs to get snared because a lot of his defense is going to be counter magic based. The fact that he has a 1-2 Squire essentially in play is not per se phenomenal for him because it's not going to clock Spencer very fast. Although Spencer is missing the crucial second white mana for Supreme Verdict, Wrath of God, Moat, Terminus if you're going to hardcast it, but he probably didn't keep a hand with Terminus in it because that's bad. You normally don't want that card in your opener. You want to find it with Mystical Tutor so you can end up blowing out your opponent. So, yeah, it looks like Spencer's on track. Or Spencer, but Ironic Gentleman is on track to get his Jace flipped. She mages Wrath of God here. But that being said, I don't actually care for that because, one, he's obviously showing counter magic of some sort, and it gives him the ability to play a game-breaking Planeswalker on the following turn if he has one, like Jace the Mind Sculptor. I don't think she'll go for it, is I guess what I'm saying. Okay, so we have a Condescend here on the Always Watching. What does this card do? I always forget. Is this it's the Wing Shards looking card that actually does what you'd think it would do based on knowing the art for Wing Shards. A little bit inefficient for my taste. Okay, so we're attacking here, and the one that he can block is going to have enough power to kill the Lighthouse Chronologist. The deck that Signalis is playing looks fairly similar to ones that Jack Schlegel has played historically. I know he runs the Diamond and the Lighthouse Chronologist in his deck. Two cards that I'm not a very big fan of in the blue-red archetype. I think you'd rather just have, more efficient cards as opposed to bigger top-end investment cards like Lighthouse Chronologist. However, that's very powerful right there. It's going to allow him to knock out the Anafenza Kin Tree Spirit and get into more cards. However, he is losing a lot of loyalty on that versus an unblockable creature, which he could very easily just invest 1 mana and a card into to kill the Chandra next turn. And I probably would do if I were him. I would probably do that if I were him, rather. So over here we have a counter war over True Name Nemesis, and it looks like who is winning that one? Michelle Wong lost that one, so lost that counter fight. Well, Jace the Vryn's Prodigy does allow you to kind of take turns like that. So I like where she sits. Or I like where he sits. Treasure Cruise is now gone. What were the remainder of the cards? Yep, kind of the sort of cards that we were kind of expecting her to have, like Moat, Wrath of God. Like, these cards are not good in this matchup because the way he kills is she needs to have permission to win this matchup because the way he ends up killing is not in that way. Okay, so we recast Sleight of Hand, probably looking for his Buried Alive, which is how this deck runs. This deck puts 3 cards that combo together: Ooze plus believe it's Devourer and Walking Ballista into the graveyard. Well, there's a threat, and it can very slowly clock the Jace Telepathy Unbound. I don't think I counter this if I'm him. I think I saved my permission for her permission, but he knows his hand better than I do. I only know her hand at this point, which consists of these 3 cards. Maze of Ith, which is bad, and then two cards that are also bad. I don't really like her position, but she could definitely get out of it. Okay, a more aggressive line right here. Down to 1 card. I don't really care for this line. These are not humans. I believe they're soldier tokens. Warriors. My bad. Yeah, the Spear of Heliod was able to knock out the Chandra. Here comes more land drops inbound. The Barbering is very far from doing anything. Yeah, Spear of Heliod plus the Oketra's Monument, which was essentially a turn-off, I think is going to give him a lot of late-game punch against this style of blue-red deck. Blue-red Tempo, which I think is more so what this deck is about. I think it runs like Blood Moons and stuff too. Hopes to back up early threats with late-game cards, and it basically is bridging FX counter magic. But I guess the Lighthouse Chronologist could turn it. I mean, it looks like he has to find a way to deal with that thing. But this is a lot of creature cards. It's a pretty fast clock. Even with 2 turns a turn, on that few cards, I mean, you're hoping to mise your draw step. Okay, so Michelle did draw well there. The Maze of Ith is being embarrassing here. So we still know her 2 cards in hand, and the Jace Telepathy Unbound is probably going to enable a recast of, well, I don't know, possibly Cryptic Command. Maybe it doesn't recast because there's really nothing that relevant in there. Like, you don't want it to rest or Thoughtseizer. None of those cards are worth a darn. Alright, so Ironic gets the turn back. This game is actually probably one of the more interesting ones to me right now. Okay, well, Parallax Wave is going to, at a minimum, kind of slow down the beatdown here. Alright, Exclude is pretty brutal. That's a card I believe I actually took out of my Azorius build. It felt dead too much at the time. It's very good once you get to this board position, but if you don't get to this board position, if you're behind, it's pretty slow and inefficient. The card is very powerful. It's indubitably powerful. Like, you could not sit there and say it's not a powerful card, but I don't always know how great I feel it is in that build. Okay, so he's getting an extra turn. But does he have something relevant to do? I don't know why we're putting more mana into this, but okay. It is exceptionally giving you an extra turn after your turn. So he'll get a secondary draw step. I guess... Oh, wait, how does this work after the opponent's turn? It's after each opponent's turn, that's right. So he'll get an extra turn after this turn and then his actual turn. Is how that ends up working out. I think you just jam here with all. I mean, the first strikers are going to knock out almost everything that can be put in their path, with the exception of the Lighthouse Chronologist. But even that's a lot of damage to take on. Invigilance is not irrelevant when you have threats like Stromkirk Noble and Monastery Swiftspear. That makes sense to me. Although if he has like the trick, you could very easily get blown out here and not get that extra turn you're expecting. And he runs them. Stuff like, I can't think of the cards names right now. Like white tricks, like little white card tricks. Okay, Savannah Lions. And actually, this is not horrendous. Now he should be looking for mana here after the untap. We're going to see this thing tick down, -2 it, looking for white mana, and then ideally a Wrath of God. Although I think you actually use the Jace Architect of Thought first, unless you don't already have the Wrath. I just generally assume that they already have the Wrath when you're playing this deck. No, he's going to hang out. Interesting take. don't know on that. Vidalcan, okay, well, Vidalcan Shackles is a reason. Albeit, one of his Jaces is going to die. The Jace, the Mind Sculptor, is going to die this next turn, I think, unless he has like bounce or something like that. Okay, so 3 cards in hand. Still no 2 of them because she hasn't cast them out. Although at this point, I mean, I guess you save the moat because if you get a Brainstorm or a Jace the Mind Sculptor, you could ostensibly get it back in your deck and then utilize the fetch land to get rid of it, one of the 2 fetch lands. But I think she's at a point where she wants to utilize one of the fetch lands just to thin and then save the other one for a later fetch if you need to, in my own definition, purify your hand. Because her hand is likely junky right now with only 1 card we don't know. He's casting Thoughtseize to give it a look-see. And then my guess would be, what did he muddle for? Muddled for Search. Search is a very strong card in this matchup. Michelle has lost connection. Yeah, it's going to be a tough card to beat. Search is extremely potent. Okay, well, the Jace dies. I guess he does not opt to use his Shackles. He probably has counter magic. That's what that should tell his opposing player, Ben Kill. Kithian, Hero of Akros. It's an interesting one to play out because if Shackles takes that, then if Shackles ends up taking that card, then there's some issues there. Okay, this is rough. This is getting run over roughshod right here. So Shackles is likely to lock this game up because the Parallax Wave is almost gone, and unless he has some way to destroy artifacts through counter magic, then he's probably in trouble. As you can see, the artifacts in this deck, there's not a ton of them, but they do significant work. This will get a Tundra, more than likely, or, no, I'm sorry, it'll get the blue-white. Oh, that's a beating. Although, actually, he can let it resolve and then take it. I actually would rather have it resolve and then take it with Shackles, I think. And then he can, I guess he can Parallax Wave it then, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe you have to counter there. We kind of knew he had something. He gets the Prairie Stream, the one that will not come into play untapped otherwise, unless you have like 2 basics. But obviously he does. So he gets the Mana Drain mana. Does he have something relevant to cast with it? I would assume so. Like, I would assume this is a Wrath of God effect. That's a Supreme Verdict. No, it's Elsbeth. Okay, well, Elsbeth is also probably going to do a very good job of keeping pace with these 2/1 threats, along with Shackles. Still representing counter magic here. Alright, that fades down to 0 counters, which means it'll go away next turn, and it does nothing this turn. Okay, there's the search for his Kanta. It just got rid of Moat, so left Wrath of God and Island in hand. And that search for his Kanta is going to take over the game here. Unless she has a way that she immediately drew away. Like, did she draw Detention Sphere? No, she didn't. She drew this, which can get what? I guess we're going to see. But my idea of a good threat is not a 1/1. Trying to think of what she might have to get with this. Obviously, you can fetch a thing. So fetch Trinket Mage into Pithing Needle. Trinket Mage into Pithing Needle would work. Trying to think of what else. You go Trophy Mage or Treasure Mage. Treasure Mage should go into a threat. Trophy Mage should go into Oblivion Stone to get rid of the Jace. Alright, Snap-a-Rune, Snapcaster. So Snapcaster does what? Just gives her more counter magic? I think, well, Snapcaster cannot Factor Fiction. It could Treasure Cruise, though, which is pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. I don't think she wanted to fetch quite yet there, but because I think if you save it, and you hit like a Brainstorm, you could possibly get rid of the Wrath of God as well, which may be nice. Maybe that's a little too greedy, but I think it is like the most optimal thing that could happen for her. So blocks, they happen. In this game, it feels like it's over, but this blue-white deck is very good at wrecking white weenie decks. At least it should be. If it gets to this point in the game and you have not killed them, then you're very likely to lose the game. Getting an Indestructible, that's still going to go back. It doesn't work that way for him. It's going to go back to its actual player. So he probably punted a little bit there. That's going to get stolen, though, and it's going to exile. He must have a way to protect it. Huh. I wonder why he got that. Huh. Interesting. So he's going to untap here. The Gideon was never going to stay with Spencer Bot. When those cards flip, they go back to their controller. So Search for Azcanta has flipped. What have we revealed off it? I think this is still the actual search itself, so let's get rid of that. Snapcaster has gone away. Treasure Cruise occurred, so we know Wrath of God plus Island and 3 cards are in her hand. Or correction, she played the Island, so we know 1 card in her hand, and she has 3 randoms that we don't know. So, gonna attack here. This game is still going on despite taking a billion extra turns, which is kind of interesting to me. It's kind of funny. Really what they need is like an earthquake effect. That could turn the tide here irrevocably. Although, we actually know it could. It very much so could, because the prowess plus the 5 toughness butt on Lighthouse Chronologist and the extra draw steps and turns would allow them to get some attacks in with the Wandering Fumarole. Not to mention, well, actually, they can't Earthquake. Never mind. I'm bad. I just saw his life total. It's 1. Yeah. So what they're able to do is take 2 turns here and hopefully find a way to break through. Klasm, not really going to do it. I mean, it gets rid of the tokens at a minimum. Is it Singleton? Exactly where you do not want to be right now. As far as draw steps go. That's why I'm not a fan of those, because they're only decent in the mid game. They're bad in the early game and they're bad in the late game. So I figure you're probably just better off having more interactive cards. This is a game that could probably be conceded by Ben Kill at this point, I think. Yeah, I mean, realistically, you just concede here. There's probably not cards in Magic that win this. Well, correction. So let's think through this. What cards in Magic win this game right now? Cataclysm? You turn your Gideon into a creature, Cataclysm, sack the Shaman, keep the Gideon, attack with the Gideon, damage them. They keep what? They keep 1 land, 1 artifact, which is likely the Vidalcan Shackles, and possibly the Mangara. That's still not great, because then just exile the Gideon, but you're at 1 land, so are they, and they have the Shackles and everything else is dead. I mean, that could be one. Alright, so Cataclysm is the 1 card I think could be turned, but it's still a 50-50 shot card. It's like basically with your back against the wall upheavaling when you know it's not really great to do. Okay, well, we're attacking in here. I wouldn't be shocked if we see some amount of blocks. Now he just takes the damage then. Does a lot of damage, but now it's Sucknollis' second turn in this cycle, and did you draw an answer is kind of the big question. Not enough cards to Barbarian Ring, and you can only Barbarian Ring away the Signal Pest or one of the Warriors. My guess would be the Signal Pest because it represents the most damage, but damage is not... Any damage is relevant damage at this point, or it's lethal damage, because he's only got 1 life point left. So, what is going on here? What did we find with this? Oh, Mystical Tutor. Well, that can win the game. As long as he has a reanimation effect in hand, that can easily win the game. So Wasteland occurred, hitting what? Probably got Exile. That may have been a while ago. Don't know what Wasteland hit. Alright, so we are going to repeal this on Ironic Gentleman's end step. Wouldn't be shocked if he forces a fight over this. He may or may not. I guess that makes Wrath of God live. Okay, Intuition. Targeting ML. What do you find with Intuition? I mean, he could have Pyroclasm, which is legit. That would knock out the soldier army over there. And actually, it would be close to killing the opposing team. It also fuels his graveyard. So, I mean, let's think this through. So, let's say he gets, a bunch of bolts. He could bolt face for 2, because that's probably the bolt he would get. Throw the Barbering, that's 3 down to 7. Now, it still doesn't work. Yeah, I think he would need something like Pyroclasm to win this. Pyroclasm would be close to winning it. I don't think it's quite there, though. He would need like a third turn to do that. He's probably taken like 2 to 3 extra turns at this point, which is pretty powerful, but like I just don't think it's destined to win most of the time. Okay, they finally conceded this one. Has a graphical bug, which is a stack chosen for... Oh, okay. Interesting. Has a Paradox has disadvantage bug. The order of the cards from the graveyard is randomized. Well, that is kind of actually bad. That's actually a big deal because if you're playing like stuff like Corpse Dance or Shallow Grave, or there's like not the Corpse Hauler, Necromancer's Assistant, I believe, all depend on the ordering of them. So Mystical Tutor into Mystical Tutor. We have not Buried Alive yet. We're doing it all at the end of Ironic Gentleman's End Step. What does she go for? Dig Through Time, probably? Nope, just Sphinx's Revelation. Interesting. Well, if he has it, that's the interesting thing. Like, you could cast it here. Korhaven doesn't really do anything. You'd probably just take the damage here. I don't think... Well, I guess you block the 1-1. Might as well. She doesn't have tricks. I think I block there on the 1-1. I mean, it's not like damage is really going to be what's relevant in this matchup. He's going to go ahead and search here for something in his Kanta. She's going to try to cast her Sphinx's Revelation. I assume for an awful lot of mana. And leave up, 2? Well, we'll see if that ends up working out. If he has counter magic, he's bound to fight this to force her to fight it back and then win on his next turn. That is if he has the reanimation effect to support Buried Alive, which will win if he does. I assume we're going to see a counterspell here. Yep. This is the best possible for him. Counter Squall is actually great too because it's pretty relevant right here. But she's going to be forced to tap out here to counter this with like a Miscalc or a Mana Drain. So that's 2 mana on her next turn. She'll draw 5 cards and gain a bunch of life, but the life is kind of arbitrary here because he's got her tapped down. So unless she has Force of Will or Daze because he does something weird, then I think he'll be okay. Now, ideally, he does not want to pass the turn back to her whatsoever. I guess he could even like flip Jace, recast the Muddle, recast the Mystical Tutor, and then draw into like I'm sorry, guys, I'm trying to think right now, an Exhume or something like that. Duress. Okay, well, that means he probably already has the combo then. Because he doesn't need to do that whole crazy line that I was talking about. Just gets rid of Ponder, plays his land. I would assume casts his... this is a pretty cool deck. You're going to see how it works here in a second. That's why I'm staying on this match. Buried Alive. Buried Alive will find the Phyrexian Dreadnought, the Triskelion, or in this case, the Hangerback Walker, the Walking Ballista, and then the Necrotic Ooze. Necrotic Ooze will be reanimated by some sort of effect, whether it be enchantment or spell. Necromancy, in this case. He knows her hand, knows she cannot stop it. This is a lethal Necrotic Ooze. Michelle is the sort of player that's going to make him play it out, but if you're not familiar with this combo, what happens is he can exile the top card of his deck because Phyrexian Devour gives it that ability. Because Necrotic Ooze, it basically says, has all activated abilities of any card in your graveyard. So all of these activated abilities Necrotic Ooze has. In this case, Phyrexian Devour allows him to make the ooze as large as his deck can possibly make it, given existing cards left in it, and then those counters can be removed by the Walking Ballista ability to do 1 damage to a target. So yeah, he needs a couple more, but he's going to go ahead and show her the combo, and yeah, okay. Well, at this point, he's got lethal, so she should concede, but she's going to make him play it out, which is her want. Okay, ML Berlin finally won this one, ground this one out. I kind of felt like that was what was going to happen there. And then this one is on pause right now, waiting for Spence on it. Alrighty, so that one's not back up. We're playing this out. As you can see, this is an infinite loop. Oh, well, I'm sorry, it's not an infinite loop. It's only as infinite as your library is. There are other ways of acquiring this with more than 1 to 2 cards, or with, in this case, I suppose 3. I can't remember all of them. Some of them involve like some weird cards that don't utilize an expendable resource. I mean, but when you're playing a 100-card deck, saying that your deck is an expendable resource is pretty fair, because generally most games you're not going to see more than like 50 to 60 cards, and even 50 to 60 cards like a control matchup where you're just like grinding each other out. So she finally dies here and goes ahead and wraps it up. We enlighten Tutor for what? Sort of Light and Shadow to get back threats that die. I don't know how much of a worry that's going to be for Spencer. I know he is also playing in a vintage event right now, so he may be tied up with that. Interestingly enough, this game is not relaunched, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, or possibly check out some different ones. Wow, this is very packed right now. Let's check this out. This is going to be Red Deck Wins versus Maverick. I don't think it's a great matchup. That's kind of why we kind of stayed away from it, but we'll check it out. So it looks like they're starting in on their second round. And we're casting a Sword of Fire and Ice. I think it's a beating. He's probably going to have to counter that. And let us see. We'll relaunch this one here. And let me verify something real fast, guys. Make sure that we're set only for 3 rounds today, because I believe we only have 10 total players. So, yeah, we're going to go 3 and 1. That's perfect. Okie doke. So ML plays an aggressive 1-drop, and his opponent plays out Mana Ramp. Again, not a fan, because like you saw the cards he's playing. He's playing stuff like Monastery Swift Spear, which I got it. It gets boosted by Fire Diamond, but Fire Diamond does nothing in and of itself the turn it comes into play. ML kept an obviously greedy hand with 1 land, but he's got some threats, so I'll give it to him. I mean, I guess in this deck he's playing like 26 lands, which I believe is far too little. But when it runs, it's going to run like an animal. It's just going to run people over. Okay, so Protection from Black, Warmth, and Core Firewalker. Well, this game is probably over. It is rough. It's kind of the nature of the format, though. Red Deck Wins is not very good right now because of sideboards. We got Azusa in play, some more random incremental life gain. Yeah, I think it's just the nature of the format right now. I think it's tough to play Red Deck Wins and be successful on it because people hate it down so much. Combo is not phenomenal in this format. There are some versions of combo that are more viable, but due to the ban listing right now, I think it is a little bit hampered. And if we were to open up more viable lines for combination style play, which really I say combo decks. I mean, really, a combo deck is still a controller and aggro deck. The all-in combo decks that are just like cantripping to find the combo every turn or tutoring to find the combo every turn are basically the same as aggro decks. They just don't do incremental damage. They kill you all at once, but they're not really interactive. Much like you'd say like Red Deck Wins. Like, can the cards that deck plays interact? Yes. Are they intended to? No, they're looking to end your life or take you from 20 to 0 life or less as fast as they can. So the going in plan, I mean, it's a more flexible deck, I guess I would say, which I would generally not say about Burn, but Burn is probably more flexible than, like, for instance, Combo Storm, which has very specific pieces of the puzzle, pun very much intended, to kill you, but they are very linear in how they need to be approached. Now, the sophistication of the build and the singularity of the cards make the deck likely more difficult to pilot correctly, but at the end of the day, there, generally speaking, is a probabilistic line that is going to always be right on a Storm deck because the cards are just so specific in what they do to achieve the effect they're looking for. Okay, we have a Saheeli Rai, which means to me he's probably playing white because he probably plays that bad Feldahar Sovereign combo. That was in Standard for a while. Well, it looks like, yeah, we killed the Kythian, and we've got a 1-1. We have 2 1-1s. I don't really like the tappers in this matchup. I think they're kind of rough. I think they're kind of bad. He needs to hope to land, but I mean, when you're playing 26, you can't really be upset when you keep a 1-lander and just don't see land. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. It happens, Attack the Saheeli, I assume. If but I don't know. Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell him about this deck, is like he probably needs to go to 30 at a minimum. Like 33 is probably safe if you're running fetch lands. And we've got an 8.5 tails, and the sword did resolve. It got remanded the first time. But there is a Maze of Ith in play, which will very much so stop the 8.5 tails, whether it's equipped with sword or not. 8.5 tails, ability's not very relevant right now. Judge's Familiar is interesting. I mean, he essentially took off a land drop to play the Maze of Ith, which I don't disagree with. The sword is an obvious threat. Because the secret to this matchup for the blue-white player is really what you're trying to do is get their card count, their hand size to 0, and then just hang out and grind them to death. I mean, like once you get their hand size to 0, there's not a lot of ways for them to get it back up. And the way you do that most effectively is by, getting to a point in the game where, you basically get a 3 or 4 for 1 off of like a Wrath of God effect, and then if you can get past their next turn without them playing something that just utterly destroys you, then like you own the game at that point. That's kind of how this matchup works in my experience. And I don't think it's bad for Azorius. Being the architect of this general deck outline that he's playing within like 3 to 4 cards. Not that no one else has ever tried to build this deck. I mean, it's not that drastically original, but I think it tends to be very favored against White Weenie. Now they can have some draws where they just overrun you. All right, well, we electrolyzed. Yeah, ML is handily losing this one, just probably due to keep decision. Okay, so Tech Edge plus a Dust Bowl. It's going to try to blow up lands here. This will likely get a swamp. It doesn't have to, but... Hymn to Turek. Well, I assume we're going to counter this. This is, complicate, drawing a card, very strong value. Actually turned Hymn to Turek from a 2 for 1 one way into a 2 for 1 the other way, which is rough beats. But it's out of the hand now. You just hate to give those up because on cards like that where it cost her 0 cards essentially to do it, that's certainly winning on the stack. All right, so Merchant Scroll, likely to find Treasure Cruise Dig Through Time or Mystical Tutor. Depends on what he has in hand. I could see Mystical Tutor. Actually, Enlightened Tutor can't be gotten with this. I'm sorry, it can only get DTT or Mystical. Mystical is the most likely because it sets up a win con, but he's not very close to winning right now. So, I don't know. I think Mystical is the right answer, though, because you can actually also cast that on your opponent's turn. The funny thing is actually, I wasn't thinking, like, 8.5 tails actually is good versus Maze of Ith, because 8.5 tails makes Maze of Ith white. Which means that, let me see if I was right. No, I got Mystical Teachings. I don't know if he knows that, but this thing right here can actually turn the Maze of Ith into a white card and then hit with the sword, which is very good. His opponent. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that line of play. He couldn't do it last turn because the equip cost was too great, but he could just commit 3 mana on board to allowing the judge to get through. But he goes for a tutor for a tutor, which is just slow. So I don't know what his hand is right now. I mean, he could very easily have it. He's not going for that. I don't care for this line. I think you actually do go to draw the cards. I think you just build your hand size up. But that's me also, like, having played both sides of this matchup, albeit on, a different build of White Weenie. I think I like my White Weenie decks a little better than this one. I don't like Duelist Heritage. I don't really play Judge's Familiar either, but that could be wrong. Judge's Familiar is a pretty strong card. It is a flyer, which is not irrelevant. I mostly like my 2-power attackers because they end the game fast, right? But Judge's Familiar is pretty cool interaction. It could be right to play it. Right over here, the funny thing is like this match is still going on. Like the red deck is still duking it out, and Redatori's at 32 life, but he's actually not really winning. Gut shot's the what? That thing. He's going to go for probably attack here, a big attack, I would assume. Okay, on this side of the house, we have Tech Edge, the Sunken Hollow. We've Grim Tutored for something. Necromancy has been shown through the transmutation of Drift of Phantasm, so we know he has that part of the combo. Michelle is on 8 cards to his 7. He's obviously in a bad mana situation, though. Go ahead and cast the Academy Rector. Her deck can't really get anything broken with Academy Rector. I think you let that happen if you're him. It gets like Oblivion Ring or like Faith's Fetters, which are not really relevant cards in this matchup. So I think he's fine taking, having her pay 4 mana to not blow up his lands each turn and play a card that does effectively, nothing. It does 1 damage a turn. It also gives him a window here. So he goes ahead and fars this thing. I don't think he has to. I'd be shocked if she countered this. I wouldn't think that'd be right. Dispel. Interesting. I'd actually be happy if I were him seeing that. The Academy Rector staying in play. The only reason I would do that is to try to pull counter magic out of her hand. The Academy Rector's fine. It's just there. So we could Necromancy this turn, or we could Bury It Alive, but you're not doing all of it unless you have land plus Reanimate specifically. So you get to look at Michelle Wong's hand. I played this matchup against Ironic Gentleman on my Esper Miracles deck, which is more similar to the one that Spencer Bot's playing right now. And I think I came out 3-0 against him. I don't think I lost a match to him. I feel like it was tight. I drew pretty well, but I also mulled the 5 and still beat him. But some of it was misplays on his part too. Not to knock him, but he did misplay a couple turns of a couple games that should have been fairly one-sided and turned into longer affairs. Force of Will. Okay, so he gets it out. Question is, can he do it now? All right, so we're Burying Alive. So there's our 5-card hand. Counterspell, Wall of Omens, Tension Sphere, and Jace's Defeat. Okay. So he needs to protect. So she has 2 counters right now. I'm assuming she's going to. Well, I don't know. What do you do? Blow up land here? Play the Wall of Omens out? The right answer could just be blowing up land. And, I guess you cannot leave up counter magic. Leave up 2 counters and then Dust Bowl at the end of the turn. He just needs mana at this point, so if he's drawing lands, he's actually probably happy, but ideally blue lands. Oh, he drew the Necrotic Ooze. That's pretty cool. That means he can draw a bunch of cards. So here's his gambit. He's trying to get her to counter this. She'd actually let it resolve. Oh, wait, no, she can't. She counters it. Okay, and we still know that he has he has Reanimate in hand. That's pretty disgusting. So Reanimate into the win. Reanimate the Ooze. She cannot Detention Sphere it, so we know her hand exactly, right? Outside of 1 draw. Yeah, we don't know 1 more card in her hand. So I think this is game. I get a Court of Calling for 3. What is found here? Eternal Witness getting back what? Kitchen things? Okay. And gain more arbitrary life. It is a human, so it cannot block the... Actually, these are both humans. This is actually pretty cool. He may win this. And through a Warmth and through a Core Firewalker. And I'm kind of rooting for him. I kind of want to see that. I won't lie. I mean, he's cast a Kitchen Finks twice now, has a Warmth and a Core Firewalker, and has failed to win the game. Not failed, but the cards just haven't been provided. But you're running hate cards. You got to also have a quick clock against red deck wins. Um, we're going to see that thing turn sideways. Interesting, okay. Well, you can still fire up the Stirring Wildwood, which has reach, and can trade with the Chandra's Phoenix. This is target legend, right? Yeah. This game's pretty sweet, actually. Like, I don't know. I'll be honest, Redder, I love you, but I'm kind of rooting for Bandit because this is pretty cool. Okay, game's over, man. Game is over. Okay, Prohibit. Here's some of my tech for this format. I love that card. I love that card especially right now with all the aggro decks out there. Oh, that's big. That's pretty big. I mean, Maze is still going to get one of them. Alright, so we're going to cast Mystical Teachings with Flashback, finding a likely Mystical Tutor to find Terminus here, which will, or I guess you could, what does he find here? Probably Terminus. Yep. Stays alive. Okay, Blessed Alliance. It's not good. And now the game appears to be fairly locked up. I think this is their first game. Just cast it for one. Interesting. Must have a lot of interaction in hand. Treasure Cruises. Very good. Need more land. Alright, well, he has to blow this thing up to kill the axe at this point in time. Yep. I mean, what do you block? Which 5/5 do you block? Or do you block the Reckless Bush Whacker? Yeah, I think you get in with all of them. If he wants to take 10, I think I'm fine with that if I'm him. I don't think you could take a value block here. Yeah, I think you have to block, like literally block. Now, what do we got? Chip and ice counter off. Can't really attack here unless he has something he can cast that, I don't know, Fog Frog. That's pretty strong. Probably need to ping here. Plink. Yep, down to 5. Yeah, one more draw step. You probably don't need to cast anything here. Brimstone Volley. Lethal. Wow. That was awesome. I don't know if this is game 2. Alright, Spencer Bot wins the match. That's what old Elsbeth does. That's why she's in the deck. She's a great win con for this deck. Very happy with that. As a 6-drop in the deck, Bandit Keith wins the match. Congrats, man. That's stellar. That's awesome. So let's go ahead and look at the registration here and verify. Oh, not this. All right, we had Sucknellis drop. Match listing. That is accurate. We witnessed that. Update match listing. Let's verify it off PD Bot. So we now have PD Bot keeping track of matches. I got it. So let's update the match listing. And on to round 2. Alrighty. That is how he won that matchup, is by utilizing the sword. Alrighty, so round 2 is up. And what do we want to watch? We can watch White Weenie. I'm interested. I wonder how the White Weenie versus Reanimator one is. I mean, this is not really... It's a weird Reanimator deck, right? I mean, it is kind of a Reanimator deck, but it's a Reanimator combo deck. It's not like, just like Reanimate, Imperial Angel. I think that deck is actually better against White Weenie than his deck is. Just because, each of its independent, reanimation targets are all just bombs. I mean, it's just like, all right, here's a Gristlebrand. Like, what are you going to do? Why we need every removal? All right, you removed it, I gained 7 life, I drew 7 cards, I'm still life parity, ditch some stuff in my graveyard, play on a Jingataxius, whatever. Your hand's gone, sorry. I have a new hand of 7, or, new draw of 7 cards, There's a lot of bombs in that deck, so I think it's pretty strong. Although this one does play a better control game. Oh, did I? Oh, did I? God damn it. Who is Bandit Yellow Eyes? Alrighty. Alrighty. So let's make sure. ML Berlin, correct. Ironic versus Goldenlin makes sense. Yellow Eyes versus Redder. And then Spence will be versus Bandit Keith. It works out mathematically, man. Yeah, I effed up. The zeros and twos were on the wrong side, even though I was watching the matchup. All right, so let's get back to Magic, guys, not tournament organizing and hosting and being bad at math or looking at charts. Oh, well, that seems bad. Oh, the old moat. I love me a moat. It's quite unbeatable. Well, I mean, there's like 2 cards in this deck that probably take care of it. That one can do 1 more damage. Put it on a 9. I can throw the Javelin over the moat, but that's only 1 damage. Alright, Azorius Chancery, I assume bouncing the non-basic back to hand. And what is ML hoping for? I don't know, a white Spectral Flight. Grifspoon. Grifspoon would do it. Grifspoon would be good. I was just like trying to think of a card that was funny, and actually Grifspoon is kind of like a white Spectral Flight, except for it's better than Spectral Flight by a lot. To the Mother of Runes in play. But yeah, not looking good for old ML. She's eventually just going to draw what she needs and win. That's what mode does for you. Just makes so many cards in the opposing player's deck dead. You really don't want to play creatures into it unless they can attack, because, you know, then she'll just wrath and kill all of them. So it's a very powerful effect in this matchup specifically, and that's kind of why, you know, I tend to play that card in that deck as well. Alright, let's check out some other games, because this one right here is not that interesting. Let's check out the aggro versus the combo player, combo control. I think this one is actually going to be kind of tough, because we had a conversation about... Oh, okay, well, he didn't get to tap everything. That's pretty cool. We had a conversation about... Or he got rid of that, I'm sorry, I didn't reveal it. Damnation. So you just can't... I don't know, man. Why don't you wait and flip this thing? He's not dead the next turn, I don't think. So it's 2, 2, 4. I think I just take the 8 there. Oh, he may have a reanimation effect for the chase, though, and just doesn't want to take the 8 damage. And if he's stuck on mana... Oh, it's turn 4. Okay, we stuck on mana, so I can kind of see that line. My guess would be we're going to see like a reanimation effect on this Jace. Maybe not, though. Oh, we're going to see a real Jace come down. Probably top his opponent. No draw. I like top there because you're already tapped out and you really can't play much of relevance. It's not it's a one of Force of Will format, so I don't like it as much. This is Yellow Eyes versus Redatory. Redatory getting to look down a pretty sizable board on the opposing side, but he could very easily play some relevant threats himself here. Play another 2-drop. So you have a 3/3, like possibly like I'm trying to remember the card's name, Fleecemane Lion, or Gaddock. Could be Gaddock. I don't know if he runs Safi in the deck. Safi, Eric's daughter. No, he's going to fight. That's cool. That's actually a very smart play. I like that. With the exception that the Soltari Priest is going to be a continuous clock, and he cannot block either of those other 2 threats. I guess if you do it on any other threat, though, it does put you in a bad spot. The Treetop Village is going to be available next turn if he opts to take that line to block the 2/2 that makes more cards. So he's going to take 4 here. His opponent will get another 1/1. His opponent, Yellow Eyes, also appears to be mana chokes, turn 4, and he did not play a land on 3. I presume he had to play. Interesting. So what are we going to get here? Like a Path to Exile or a Plow effect during the damage step? No, he just mistapped. He meant to get to his next main, and he's probably going to play another 1-drop out. Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Oh, 2 more 1-drops. Well, this is obviously a great 2-lander for Redatori's opponent. He really needs to go like land into something big here, because the incremental damage from all these cards, even if his opponent is not getting to, is not favorably trading them off, is going to be problematic because of the unblockable priest that's in play, and likely the lower removal count that Redatori's deck has in it. He's probably playing some, but the unblockable Soltari Priest is going to be problematic at best. Although this is going to be a big turn because he's going to have, essentially 3 extra mana this turn to do something with. And it could just be cast a 3-drop out plus leave, the Treetop Village up. Oh! Well, hope you have removal, man. Because now, yeah, that's rough. That is real rough. That is a big lady right there. The Queen of Swings, as she's called. Or as I like to call her. She definitely is tough to beat if the opponent does not have removal. Which I don't think they're likely to. I think they probably remove the Lotus Cobra just due to the amount of mana it can generate. But we'll see. This is interesting to me. What's going on over here? Nothing interesting. So, we Supreme Verdicted the board. That seems fine to me. Factor Fiction at end step. They're on rough card parity. Jace the Mind Sculptor is a way to win the game, so you probably put that and Ancestral Visions on its own. I think that's a split. I think it's Jace plus Ancestral Visions and Counter Magic plus Tech Edge, which is worthless, and Dig Through Time, which is not worthless, but is not per se going to find her a way to win the game. Because I think the way you have to play this if you're the White Weenie player is you want to keep them off ways to win, not they're going to have plenty of ways to answer stuff, but keeping them from their win cons is actually the best. I don't like this split whatsoever because it's a counter spell that is very efficient and a threat that can win the game just on its own. You should just top the deck, and make sure flyers, never drop. Unless somehow draws 2 flyers in a row, but that's not likely. Or a flyer plus a disenchant effect. Yeah, this game looks like one I would probably concede under normal circumstances. So the Baneslayer gets killed by what? Oh, Path to Exile. Okay, that's good. I don't think I liked waiting there, but I don't know. I mean, realistically, you probably have to get rid of most of his board at this point. That's a very upsetting sequence when they have their 3 to 5 removal spells, unconditional removal spells. It's fairly upsetting because you feel like you turn the game and then you just run into a Path to Exile and you're like, all right, well, my Baneslayer Angel, which is a game-winning threat, has now turned into garbage. It's now gone, and I'm probably losing. So we have a Banisher Priest here. What is underneath this thing? Mardu, a War Reaper. Okay. Do you counter here? I don't know. So the Walking Ballista's in the graveyard. So is the Skoos. I think you need to get the Ooze there, but I don't know. Oh, he actually used the Reaper. Oi. Oy vey, that's such a beating. Mardu War Reaper is pretty solid. Like, I love this card just because, like, when you are... Oh, he's getting that? I don't know if Ironic Gentleman has another way to exploit the Necrotic Ooze. Limb Duel's a Vault. I don't know if he can even win. He has to cast Gristlebrand, essentially. Or he has to get a Gristlebrand in the graveyard and then draw off it, I guess, and then reanimate it, and then like use the lifelink off it to win, I suppose. I'm not sure. It's interesting. Alright, on this end of the board, yep, casting more idiots out, but Jace is just going to win. With a Batterskull. Batterskull, actually, this is not horrible. Like, oh wait, he's just dead. Oh no, he's not, because he has the Parallax Wave to get rid of the Shadow Creature, and then he can go into gaining just a whole boatload of life. And I'll have like 2 more counters left on it after he does that. Okay, well that's fine. I mean, it doesn't really change it much, I don't think. I think it changes the time that he can leave the Parallax Wave in play. The old White Weenie deck. Yep, and you get rid of that with your Parallax Wave. So, a bazillion White Weenie matchups. It is the popular choice of the day. You know which matchup we're not checking out? And oh, it's complete. Who won that matchup? I'm curious to see. What did the PD bot have to say? I missed that one, unfortunately. Yeah. All right. So Benkill is up around. Bandit Keith is up around. All right. So Stoneforge Mystic. What does it get? Sort of. If he has the white protection sword, that's pretty strong here. I think you pretty obviously get in there with your germ token here. Alright, Sword of Fire and Ice. Cannot use this turn, so I think you leave up the Treetop Village just to avoid blowouts. I do think you attack, and if he opts to double or triple block, you can utilize the Parallax Wave to remove one of the peskier blockers. What's going on here? We're stealing stuff with shackles. This game is interesting from the standpoint that I don't know, other than like hardcasting Gristlebrand, which there's a Caracas in play, how he wins this. This is a must counter, I suppose. I guess so. Well, the Bramaz is protected by Caracas, but, also can't really attack. Alright, more nonsense critters. I really do think he needed to attack there. That's actually an ally, which makes it a 4/4, which is not irrelevant. I do think the play was to attack there. Let me just remove it with the Parallax Wave, I assume. Or you could block it with the Stoneforge. Yep, definitely a valid option. You should block. Sloppy game on my part. Yeah, I mean, white does have ways to punish, if you don't go off the turn of. Alright, harm's way. Does he do this wrong? Next 2 damage that is source. Alright, that's the source. Okay, so that would have worked. Alright, Michelle Wong wins. Oh yeah, he's milled. Yep. So alrighty. Does it now? Oh, it moves Aftermath cards back on top? That's kind of bad. That's funny. I'm trying to think of what Aftermath cards really see a lot of play. Not a ton of them do. I've seen a couple. The game ended on this one. Who else is still playing? These guys should be going to game 3. Yellow Eyes got Redatory. So who else is still playing? I think Spence is done. Is there anyone else still playing? I'm trying to think if we have another matchup. Yeah, Ben Kill had the bye, so there should only be 4 games going on. So this is it. So we're kind of waiting right now. I'm going to go on a quick pause, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back. White Weenie versus Azorius Control is the first one to refire. ML Berlin will be on the play, so hopefully he can get some revenge here before he has to go back to the draw in Game 3. We shall see. The draw is not phenomenal. No card on turn 1 means he kept a land-rich hand and has some powerful 2-drop cards. I think it does, at least. If he didn't keep 2 lands and he didn't play anything turn 1, that's a bad keep. I can't think of many things to incentivize that. Maybe like Winter Orb or something. Alright, a 3-1. Feels like it's going to get spell snared here unless she's just fetching for fun. Or it could be a Force Spike. Force Spike or Spell Snare are the 2 cards that come to mind that get this thing. Nope, just playing to fetch, I think. Yep, okay. Oh, another fetch. The incremental damage is not bad, but fetch lands, it's funny because when you're not playing a monochromatic deck like ML is, when you're playing like a 3 or 4 color deck, if you have like a 3 to 4 color deck mirror, I tend to think you can almost equate win percentages to the number of fetch lands that are activated on either side. Fetch lands are probably the most powerful cards in this format, I think. Just because it's given to variance, and obviously you can get more powerful decks assembled that run more colors, and they allow you to really get greedy and kind of cheat on mana. Obviously there's ways around that, but this is getting mana drained? Yuck. No, just counterspelled. I was feeling drained for some reason. I was like, this is going to be nasty. I mean, counterspelling a Topan Freeblade feels pretty bad when you're doing it, though. Although she does have the double white fix, which is not good for him, because that means her Wrath effects and moats are alive at this point. And on a 7-card hand, she's very likely to have 1 Oust. Okay, interesting. She misses her land drop, though. That's very interesting to me. Maybe she has Shackles in hand or something like that. Core Firewalker. If he goes Core Firewalker into 1-drop, that could be good. The life gain off Oust is not relevant in this matchup. It's really more so just the tempo that is. In the mid-range matchup, there could be times when like Oust would be very bad because the life total is relevant for your opponent. That's why it just tends to be played in very singularly and very much uncontrolled decks. I do play it in White Weenie because it's just so efficient and it's fairly unconditional in its effect. However, that deck tends to horizontally swarm your opponent, so I think it's a valid card there. Alright, let's see what else is going on. So a faster start from Redatory here. I didn't see the end of that game, but it looked like it was pretty well over. Toxic Deluge would be pretty solid here, I think. Ooh. Why is that even tapped? Did he attack with it? I do not like that line if he attacked with it. I'm kind of curious to see. Cast, Mother of Rooms. Yeah, he attacked with Mother of Runes. That's not solid. But what can you do? I've played a lot with Mother of Runes, and I think there's been maybe 1% of the time that I attacked with her and I should have. I'm not saying it's 1% of the time that I actually just attacked with her. I've attacked with her when it's been wrong too, but I don't think attacking with her is generally right. Mother of Runes is going to be kind of a showstopper here. We exile the card with, I assume, Swords to Plowshares. No, this thing. And it was Voice. Okay. Where did the clue come from? What am I missing here? How did they get a clue? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Declaration Stone, of course. Why not put it on the birds and attack in the air? He wants to force the tapping of the Mother Runes to remove it. I mean, because if he attacks the birds in the air... Yeah, it was a misplay. He should have equipped it to birds, attacked with birds, killed the Mother with the birds, because the sword is colorless. The Mother can't protect itself from sword. So you still kill it there. Probably sloppy play on his part. That is what it is. Okay, so we're pumping this thing. We've peaked. We don't get to see when an opponent or when a player peaks in the watch mode solely. So we're getting hit for a lot of damage here. I think if he had access to Toxic Deluge last turn, he wanted to use it. Okay, another moat, but cards are not going to be drawn here. Oh, a flyer, cool. And a Doom Traveler, so even if a Wrath effect happens, he'll have back a 1/1 attacker. Very interesting. So do we have a Wrath? No, we Into the Roiled something. Jace the Mind Sculptor. Well, I can see the impetus for keeping this hand. Without knowing what he has in hand, it's kind of tough here because he could be actually looking for a land drop. It's entirely possible. Attacking her face makes sense. Okay, Far and Away. Very strong there. Evidently, he pumped his Student of Warfare up. And, yeah, I think Golden Lyn's sequencing in this game has been a little off. The attack with the Mother was pretty bad. If the Mother was still up, there's not a lot of ways you can lose this game because you just stifle the Far, then sack the worst creature to Away. Into the Royal doesn't work. Go for the Throat doesn't work. It just does so much. It forces him to cast 2 of them in a turn, which is mana inefficient and tough. This card's big, but it's just going to get countered right now. Mana leaked, yep. That card's losing utility as the turns go by, and he continues to draw mana. So getting to get utility out of it here in the mid-game is pretty strong. I can see this either resolving or not resolving. I'd go either way on it. Prohibit, yep. But his opponent is still on 4 cards, which is not per se great. He's on 1 with a draw step here. So a lot of interaction, but not a lot of action, if you know what I mean. He needs to find a way to kill his opponent at some point. And, okay, Diabolic Vision is a card that can help do that. And I'm certain that's probably what he's looking for. He probably has 1 reactive card in hand, and now he's looking for action. Because he's gained the tempo he needs to, and the mana base that he needs to cast his more powerful effects. And hopefully he can change that into a victory. Okie doke. So, continue to look at the top card, but dead next turn. Put a card on top. That is true. Can't draw with that thing. Could bounce, though. Could bounce. Wrath of God. Yeah, it feels like it's going to be Wrath of God into O-Ring for Crusade. And probably game over. Probably. Yeah, same thing. Supreme Verdict, basically Wrath of God. What could ML have here? I can't think of 2-mana cards that do anything here. Well, you know what? Correction. Never mind. So, O-Ring on the Crusade. Or Face Fetters. Face Fetters on the Crusade. She plays that card. Even though I'm not a fan of it. I think it's kind of bad, but No, Search for His Contest. She got rid of it. Wow. What happens if he has another Crusade effect, though? You just lose on the spot, right? Yeah, that's the game. There you go. That is the game. Wow. You know, where are the O-Ring effects at? I think you have to O-Ring there, because this is such a high possibility this could happen to you, that I think not getting the Crusade is just bad. Or even, you know what? The Crusade, screw the Crusade. Just get the Spirit. Kill the Spirit. Because you're just fighting for an untap here. If you get the untap, you just win the game. Maybe she doesn't run O-Rings. Oh, no. That's not possible. We know she does. We saw her deck, unless she took them out. She could have taken them out, but I don't really agree with that decision. Just due to the fact that I think the Crusades, the O-Rings are pretty good because they can get the Planeswalkers, like the 3-4 they run in there. And they're actually not bad against some of the enchantments. As much as I rag on the Crusade effects, they can tend to actually act as 5-for-1s. If the opponent has 5 creatures and they're all getting a boost from it, you're saving yourself a lot of clock. In this case, I think I would have just exiled the token because even if they destroy my enchantment, they're not getting it back. This game is going to be interesting, I think, though, because he's in a very tough place right now. I don't know what he got with the Diabolic Visions, but obviously the last card in his hand was not Counter Magic. So Thalia is going to make it tough to win, and he's dead next turn. Alright, he's transmuting this for a what? Virtue's Ruin. Yeah, Virtue's Ruin is the card you get with this. If he's running it in his sideboard, he should have it. Toxic Deluge is not enough because it'll just leave the land left over. The Mishra's Factory, that is. So, what can you get here? Yep, Virtue's Ruin. Keeps him alive for another turn. Now, if his opponent plays a flash creature at end step, then he's probably just dead. No lands in hand, evidently, because he's not playing another one on his turn 9 here. He's got gas. Okay, we're looking at cards. We pathed what? Probably a Kythian? Nope, a Soldier of the Pantheon. Which, I don't know if I care for, because there are some cards that you probably rather have a path where Swords of Plowshares becomes a lot more relevant once you have a moat down or something like that. I'm going to say my hat's off to ML, though, for eking that out. I think Michelle did misplay that last game. I think Search was the greedy line, and the O-Ring or Detention Sphere was the proper line. The line that probably keeps you from losing to the couple outers that he had in his deck, and he did have a couple outers. Alright, we're fleecing mana out of his deck here. Evidently no 1-mana counter spell. I assume he probably attacks. He's trying to burn her time up. The only reason I really ever condone of attacking into a Maze of Ith with one creature is if there's an Urborg in play or some I don't know, a Riftstone Portal or whatever that card's called. Riftstone Portal is what the card's called in the graveyard, because then it actually ties up mana, which is not horrendous. Assume we're going to see another creature here. Yep, a Deathblade, cool. And then a pass. Golden wins the match, so he kills himself with the Toxic Deluge. Alrighty, so Golden takes it down with White Weenie in that game. And, I don't know, we may be seeing ourselves a White Weenie finals. Well, actually, it's Red Deck wins, White Weenie right now, and lead, plus Zoria's control. Actually, what are these two players' records? Did Michelle win her first round? I think she actually lost it. Yeah, she 0-2'd Ironic. So never mind. ML lost his first round. Michelle had to get paired with him automatically, I guess. Let's check the PD bot real fast and hopefully input it correctly this time. Okay. Counterspell versus the Oketra's a Monument. What do you turn around? Probably the Topan to make it not become a 3-3. Vigilance is not that relevant in this matchup. Does he have another play? No plays. Well, activating the Fairy Conclave to block does not seem good with a Death Blade. Although you could do it after it's triggered on the attack step, I think. Yeah, you can, so it could block whatever it wanted to. Mazevith the 2-2. That will grow. Makes sense. Let's go check if folks are reporting. Yep, retry. Okay, so ML and Michelle are the only ones left. Benkill has the bye on Red Deck wins. Bandit Keith up 2-0 against Redder. Oh, that was from last round. Bandit Keith 2-0 against first Spence because he dropped, basically, or he just didn't want to play that matchup, I don't know. And then Yellow Eyes 2-0 versus Redder Tory. Alright, Memory Elapse. Going back to the top of the deck. Not a horrible card to draw. Alright, 3 mana for what? Always Watching. Well, that's probably better than that 2-1, but what are you going to do? Okay, we turn around the 3-3 and then take 5 to face. I mean, it happens, man. Alright, back to the games, guys. Alrighty. Alright, so what happened here? We flipped a bunch of creature cards back to hand. Seems fine to me. This thing is going to get in there for lulls, I suppose. And he's going to play on another 2-drop. And now we have Korhaven on the board. But he has 6 cards in hand or 5s and 6 life. I don't know. This is up in the air. This is really up in the air. More land. More land's always good. I don't think he runs Armageddon and Ravager, or in Ravages of War. So that may or may not be a thing in his deck. I don't believe it was last time he played it, but who knows? White Weenie's mutable. That would certainly be game. Alright, tapped land, 5 cards in hand. Yeah, realistically, she needs to probably find the time to Wrath of God the board. She can still stop these 2 threats, but that's going to cost her essentially... Well, the Mazevith has already cost her a land drop, but it'll cost her 3 mana on his turn, leaving up 2 mana to counter 1 spell, with him on 5 cards and her on 5 cards. So, the way she... I don't know, even if she Wraths here, she's kind of in a rough spot, because then she doesn't have counter magic up, and he's got a ton of mana and a lot of cards in hand. It'd be 6 next turn. So her line is indeterminate here. Depends on her hand, really. It's tough to say. It takes a long time to play. Zori's Control is not a fast deck. I mean, it can have fast draws. Burn is in the 2-0 bracket right now. Despite some of the nastier hate cards in the game. Not as nasty as that blue-white deck. That blue-white... God damn it. He'll give you a different answer. Sorry I'm jumping around, guys. Okay, so the play evidently appears to be that we're going to use the Core Hobbit and the Maze of Ith to forestall these threats. Even Restoration Angel is not going to stop this. Settle the Wreckage, maybe. This thing's going to flip. Cool. She's 6 life. This thing transforms and gives him like more 1/1s, right? Does it produce a 1/1 every turn or does it just get bigger? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, beginning of end step. Produce a 1/1. Yeah, no fair, man. If you're playing 1v1 Commander and you want to win those prize pools, it's cool. Actually, I think this prize pool may be better, especially for 3 matches or 3 rounds with the possibility of a 4th for finals. Ancestral Visions on the prize pool for the first place winner. It's a 16-tick pool. I have to look at what the leagues for Commander go at. If you're playing a challenge, probably more. So this is being cast out during the begin combat phase to Swords to Plowshares. Likely the 8/8 would be my guess. However, the Deathblade Elite can still force this thing to chump it and can actually eat up it won't die. So this is going to get Swords to Plowshares. I mean, it could kill the Deathblade, but that doesn't seem good. Cryptic Command. Alright, she's going to tap and draw, or tap and bounce. I don't know. Hard telling. Tap and draw would be my guess, because she's trying to draw into a Wrath of God effect here. I think if he's smart, he maybe plays 1 more threat out and leaves the rest in his hand. Tap, draw, yep. Makes sense. Well, got a 6 or 5/6. Not likely to be attacking. Does he play more threats out? I don't know if you do, because this thing's already going to make a threat out of itself. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I think she has to Wrath or Bust anyways. So, like... Yeah, I think she has to Wrath or Bust anyways. Does Elsbeth get her out of this? I don't even know if Elsbeth does. Like, it's a lot of there's a lot of creatures. There's an awful lot of creatures. Of note, this thing does not give the boon to token creatures. So the human clerics that this thing produces are not phenomenal. Yeah, if this is Wrath of God, that's probably good enough. If it's Jace, it may be good enough. Feels like a Jace into a Wrath of God, I think. Yep. Yep, there's Jace. Looking for, pretty specifically, Supreme Verdict, Wrath of God. Or die. Yeah, Hollow Burial is no longer an option. Yeah, it's a pretty specific draw here for her. No, it doesn't. However, I reference you to Sphere. What is it? Sphere of Law. That card is ridiculous against red deck wins. Yeah, got her. All right, well, there's that game. Azorius taken down by the mighty White Weenie. We'll go ahead and put it up. I think there's a 2-1 result. PDBot has either stopped working or probably because I effed up the pairings in here. Alright, so round 3 is up. Yeah, Ivory Tower was kind of... I remember that play. I was not a big fan. Alright, so round 3 is up, and quick pause, guys. Guys, pairings come up. We're going to have an Azorius mirror match, which is pretty cool. I guess Michelle just dropped, though. And, White Weenie versus White Weenie. White Weenie versus Red Deck wins. We're on our way to have finals, I think. It's very viable. Alrighty. So, let's jump back into the matches. Let's see if they've started yet, at least. Alright, so this matchup seems like it would be interesting to me. This is Azorius versus Azorius. It's my build versus... Well, my build, you know, plus minus 3 to 4 cards versus Michelle's build. I tend to like the Miracles build better. I mean, then again, I'm obviously partial because I put the thing together and, you know, we all like to think our creations are the best. I'm certain it's not, but I think it's a fairly good deck. But I think this is bound to be an interesting matchup, just because it's Control Mirror, and Control Mirrors are fun for me. I think that matchup does depend on variance. This is a more landed deck. ML's runs 26 lands. I believe Golden Lens runs 33 to 34, which is closer to right, especially with fetch lands. With fetch lands, I think you could run like 34 and be fine, because like you're essentially running a 30-land deck at that point. If you hit a fetch land, you just cut 2 lands out of your deck at that point, which in that deck, thinning is relevant. Because you want your top deck to always be treating you well. Alright, so Ancestral Visions, who's got that? Oh, he does. That's going to favor him, I think. The one issue in both these decks is going to be like the dead card count. So like it's hard to tell who's actually up. I mean, Michelle's up a card because of Azorius Chancery, of note. However, you know, there's a lot of dead cards in both these decks as well. Like the Wrath of Gods are generally not going to be good in this matchup. And there's a few of them, like Moats are not going to be good. Those are all main deck cards that you really don't want to be drawing or casting in this game, in this matchup. So he's going to fight this with a counterspell. I assume he's probably going to fight back. That is my assumption, like a negate or something. This feels like a mana drain? Yeah. Okay, so mana drain on this, fetching a dissolve or disallow. An absorb, okay, 3 mana counter. He's going to counter this back, because right now he's trying to win the card battle. Like, he's not really worried about what she can do on her turn, because he probably is hoping to draw into like an O-ring, or already has one to like take care of a Planeswalker if she has one. And if she doesn't, the rest of her cards are all just reactive, so being tapped down is really not a big deal in this matchup, or I don't tend to think of it as being a big deal. Alright, there's the dissolve, so we had the wrong player on the wrong card, but we kind of felt it around. I felt that card coming. So we draw here. You get the mana drain mana. Do you have like a I don't know, Shackles, land drop plus Shackles. Not that Shackles is good in this matchup, but it would allow you to be mana efficient and use your mana drain mana. Scrubland. I don't play Scrubland in my deck. I'm not a fan of it. I have historically tried it. It's going to be good here. This is going to get the Batter Skull, I assume, which is the only artifact that can be fetched with Stoneforge in the deck. Well, Stoneforge does not lose a lot of utility if you draw the Batter Skull, because just getting into play for that cheap and essentially making it a 5-mana recursive threat that's going to be very hard for Michelle's deck to deal with is problematic for her. I'm not a fan of Scrubland, though. That card has always underwhelmed me, because in the early game, it's just a rough draw in this deck. Alright, Moat. That stops the Batter Skull, but eventually he'll be able to find a way to deal with it. This deck does run like Oblivion Rings and stuff like that. Although, it tends to be that unless getting rid of it's going to allow you to win the game, you normally don't want to, because the deck does have the threat package is legitimately 5 cards. So it's like a Gideon, the 5-mana Gideon. Actually, I'm sorry, it's probably 6. So Gideon, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Big Elspeth, Elspeth's Son's Champion, Entreat the Angels, and Batter Skull is it. So it's 5 cards. This card will likely get her own Stoneforge. She's going to counter this. Interesting. It gets it. I don't think you counter that back. What's it going to get? It's going to get a Stoneforge, but it's not likely she's playing red that we haven't seen. It's the Stoneforge plus what's that card called? Sun something, Sunholm something, the thing that gets spells out of your deck for you. It tutors for spells. That would be good in this matchup, but that's probably not in her deck. Just making stuff up right now. So Batter Skull is on the board. Mildly interesting. Academy Runes means even if she does destroy it, that he can get it back. Runes is another card I like in this deck. It's one of the few lands that does not produce color that I am favorable of because of its synergies with Engineered Explosives plus Batter Skull, which is one of your threats. And you very much so need to rely upon it. Okay. So, we get rid of this. 7 to 4 cards. Well, at least the Tech Edge allows her to maybe find a way to get rid of the Batter Skull. The Caracas could be relevant. I can't think of how, though. Can't think of a legendary flyer she has in her deck. Okay, she's going to cast Vendilion Click here, which is a flyer that can get through. And she could blow up the Caracas here if she likes. This is going to get countered, though. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And he actually wants her to redraw it, which means that he's trying to buy time. He hasn't found a way to win yet, but he probably has a lot of ways to stop what she's doing. And I say that just because I play this deck a lot. I generally tend to feel like I know how it's going to play out or how you need to play it out depending on what you have. And Spencer Bot's a good player. So I think he plays it generally how I'd play it. And I like to think, I know how to play it. I've played it many times and built the darn thing. So Treasure Cruise up to 8. Possible to force a counterfight if she has it. Does not have it. We know she's drawing exactly a click. At this point, he could have found a way to win. If he has a Jace, he's going to try to resolve it here. A Detention Sphere. Okay. Yeah, I suppose. He's got her on 2 cards. He might as well use the 5 power he has on the board to win with. She's going to charge up her Calciferum pools. It'll be interesting to see if she actually fetches with Flooded Strand. I think she probably should at this point. I don't think Vendilion Click is going to win this game. Especially if the moat goes away. Yeah, I think she'd rather have a random card than a 3-1 flying attacker that looks at a bazillion cards in hand and tries to stop something. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured, is she'd get rid of it. It just doesn't seem good here. Let's check out some other games, though. This is Bandit Keith versus Goldenlin. What do standings look like right now? So Goldenlin, Bandit Keith, both in the top blocks. And so is ML Berlin. Okay. So... Oh. Already. Floating up very hard game one, over half my land, and I'm a red deck. Well, yeah, I mean, that happens, man. Well, the thing is, if this... I don't know how ML's match is going. Let's see. Did I already have it up? No. Let's watch this one as well. See how this one's going. This is White Weenie versus White Weenie, which to me is not exceedingly interesting. 5 cards and more lands versus, no or equivalent cards. I don't know. Go either way. Caracas is actually pretty powerful, though. We have 2 white main lions. Interesting. I mean, if his hand is like landed and he has Armageddon, he could just drop land, go Armageddon. Alright, drop this thing. Not really good in the mirror because it doesn't have first strike and it has very low toughness, which means it'll probably die in blocks. Mel's got a lot of lands, which is odd for this deck, being very land light. So if he doesn't drop some threats here, he could be in trouble. I think he ideally wants to drop 2 this turn. Alright, Goblin Rocksledder, not looking good against the first strike vigilance threats that she had, or that Goldenlin has down. So what do you do? What do you do? I don't know. We're going to see. That's bad, man. Yeah, I mean, it's red deck wins, man, so like variance is kind of the name. Now, I mean, at a minimum, this card right here actually showstops a lot of the ground game that Goldenlin's got. But they can get in with one of his threats, and that's going to be able to do 3 down to 10. If he casts no spells, what does this do? It just makes his attackers huge, right? Yeah. He's not really in a position to be attacking here, but a 5/5 is certainly better than a 2/3. 5/5's downright huge, actually, in this matchup. Alright, so Goldenlin's getting in there for damage. My assumption is he has a protection spell, and he wants to get rid of the Boros Reckoner. Doesn't block. Interesting. So he has this thing, and 2 more cards, one of which is probably like Harm's Way or something like that. Or possibly, I don't know, it could be numerous tricks, but I know his version of the deck plays a lot of tricks. Alright, beatdown. Makes sense to attack with all here. Normally you don't want to attack with your Stoneforge just in case the Germ token gets removed and you want to utilize your mana most efficiently. Alright, Bygone Bishop. 5/5 in play on the opposing side. But a 3-power attacker with the trigger for Exalted off of the Sigiled Paladin on the opposing side. no real good attacks because they're 3 first strike creatures that, can triple block this card and kill it. Although, what would be interesting here is if he has a burn card, he could actually attack, and if he gets triple blocked, burn out the best of those threats, which is probably the Elite Inquisitor, actually. I don't know. Actually, maybe Sigil Paladin. Maybe. Yeah, I think there is some upside to attacking here, depending on what he has in hand. Alright, he has another blocker. Honor the Peer is bad to see, because that makes all of his stuff mono huge, but doesn't the game's probably over. Anarchy is a good draw here, if he has it in deck. So that's 4 damage down to 6. Yeah, I think if I had burn, I would have attacked there and just seen if... Because, you're playing to win here, not to lose, or not to not lose, which... I think when you're in red deck wins, you get a position like this, your chances of winning are very remote. But I think if you attack there with the Wild Blood pack, and you're able to blow out his first strike, his triad of first strike blockers, 1, the backswing is smaller, and 2, if you just get him to do that, you blow him out, and you have opened the lane for your own attacks, reduced his attacking force. Now, with giving him more time allows him to draw stuff like Honor the Pure and more first strike creatures, where your chances of getting to do that are more remote. But Honor the Pure is obviously a lot less good on a board that only has Figure of Destiny and Bygone Bishop. So, I guess that's my point. I don't know if he had it or not, but on 5 cards, it seems like he has 1 card that can kill a creature. I could be wrong. Could just have all lands. He said he has a lot of lands, but I think he said he had 1 burn card. I mean, you could concede, too. Yeah, I don't know your hand, man. Yeah, give me a second, man. I can do that. I'm gonna... Sorry, guys, for doing this during the video, but I'm gonna send out the ban list. Yep, I drew gut shot 5 turns after he landed Athalia. Well, I mean, that's it, man. I mean, first strike is very strong. It's very strong in this matchup, and tends to help the white deck to stabilize in turn 1 or 2. So this is a weird matchup, and the way I try to describe this matchup is that White Weenie is so good against red deck wins because it is essentially when you're playing White Weenie, you're essentially playing mid-range that's the closest to red deck wins as it can possibly be, which the closer you are in efficiency to the aggro deck you're playing, generally speaking, the more you can beat it. So I guess what I mean is let's say the average converted mana cost of the red deck is 1.98 or 1.9. Let's just guesstimate it at that. It may be more, maybe less. Probably not less, but maybe more. And let's say the White Weenie deck's average converted mana cost is 2.05 to 2.2. The closer you can get those two ratios, the one that has the slight converted mana cost advantage, given playing of good cards, albeit, the more likely you are to win. Is kind of a hypothesis I've had for many years as to why the White Weenie deck is generally just better, and White's creatures are just great. They're just a lot better than the red creatures that are out there. Alright, going for a big attack here. This is big. This is a big attack. let's see what he does. I mean, I think he's just going all in just to see if he'll do anything. All right, over here, we got a Jace getting Swords to Plowshared, which makes sense to me. I don't think you counter that either. If you're on this deck, you just let it happen. Jace is good, but I actually don't like Serum Visions. I think I still run it in that deck because it's just not another good cantrip for it. But I think in this deck, I'd play Opt before I'd play Serum Visions every time if I didn't have the space to put the Serum Visions in there. I just don't care for that card. It just doesn't do enough. It's good in the early game, but it's horrible in the late game or like mid game where you just need to find something now to win the game. So the 6 toughness thing dies, which is rough. The 8 power thing, dies. This dies. Yeah, this is rough. And this is what First Strike does to games. It kind of warps them. In this matchup at a minimum. ML gets him. Yeah, and that's what I was kind of saying. I kind of figured, did he have the cantrip? What did he have to protect that thing? I guess they were just trying to exchange blows. Because this card right here is realistically like the Boros Reckoner is kind of a mirror breaker, but if you're not blocking with it, it's not. All right, Entreat for 3 on Spencerbot's turn. So he must have randomly drawn that card. She's gonna get some value out of this, which is good for her. I think I would have waited on that. I think I probably would have actually bottomed that card off Serum Visions, because I don't think in that part of the game, until you've established overall or complete and utter control over the game, you realistically want to be trying to go for it, because she has a bunch of Wraths too. She probably didn't board them all out because she probably can't. A lot of her sideboard, like a lot of his sideboard, are going to be geared towards the aggressive decks, and there's going to be times you just have to leave in two Wrath effects that just are not good. What else is going on here? This is over. This is over. Okay, well, let's wait for those to come back up, and then we'll wait and watch these two think through their next lines of plays. Assume he has a land drop. You do not want to be falling behind on lands here. Yeah, I think I would have bottomed that Entreat, though. The Entreat looks cool, but even if it resolves here, it's not going to win. She has 6 cards in hand. It's it's just counterbait. If this is the Big Elspeth, then you got to have an O-ring, which he very well could. That's kind of why I don't like it. Like I was saying before, I guess it may seem counterintuitive to you that I would say it's fine to tap on your turn and then say I wouldn't have done this. But in this case, it's not cards. Entreat is a threat. It's not cards. And I think you just want cards. Now, she's resolved in Elsbeth, which is a threat, but the 3 power is not really going to end the game extremely fast if he can answer on his next turn. Which leads me to think that if he's played this correctly, he probably has a way to answer a permanent threat in his hand. His best sequencing would be Detention Sphere, land, Jace the Mind Sculptor. If he has that, then good for him. Land. Alright, well, he has the land at least. Alright, there's the O-ring that we figured he had because he did go for this line in the first place. Now, if he could back it up with a threat, like a Jace the Mind Sculptor, then he's probably in a very good spot. It's that. So I'm talking about the comment I just made to player Nola Cole, who I think is going to join us now, which is cool. The biggest sell for this format to me is building. I think it actually building pays dividends in play as well because you get a more acute understanding of hidden information. It's kind of like how I called this Oblivion Ring line from Spencerbot, assuming that he would be playing correctly, which I think Spencerbot is actually one of the stronger players, technical players, that we've got in this tournament right now. I don't think he would have gone for that line if he didn't have the answer. Now, if she has an additional... he left up counter magic, so he doesn't have a threat. She's going just to Oblivion Ring this. He'd probably counter that. If he could do it twice, he fights over it. There's a dissolve. Do you have a counter spell, Michelle? And now the question is, does he have Pierce to get her counter magic? Because I think she's going to go for it here. A dismantling a blow. Oh, spell Pierce is still good here. Dismantling blow is a clunker, though. Not a fan of that card. I mean, I like it in like 40 life Commander because it's a very powerful effect. I mean, it's essentially a 4-for-1, but it's like 6 mana, so I mean, it's just a lot to go right. Well, he may be dead here. She may have found a line here to get this Elsbeth online again. Now, does he have Detention Sphere or his own? What is this? Oh, Sphinx's Rev. He's looking for an answer, but he has resolved this. So there's going to be 9 power on the board, but that's not going to kill him in 2 turns. Which means that if he found an answer to the Elsbeth, he can answer that first, then Wrath of God the board to get rid of the 9 power of 1/1s. So I don't think he's in the worst of spots. It just depends on what he drew there. Yeah, I think you do take the damage there because mana efficiency is going to be very crucial on this next turn. Stoneforge is kind of an irrelevant. It's just an additional threat. But I think once Wrath of God happens, it's going to be found to be irrelevant, because once the Batterskull gets bounced again, it'll just get countered on the following turn. So I think despite Michelle's obvious board advantage here, I don't think she's per se winning. She may be, because he drew blind. The life is only relevant that it gives him 2 turns, opposed to 1. So we're going to see here. So did he draw an answer to Elsbeth? That would include Council's Judgment, Mystical Tutor into Council's Judgment, Detention Sphere, and that's about it, I want to say. I don't think, unless he runs like a Pithing Needle package, which is an option, and I probably would have a Pithing Needle package if it was a more controlling meta, but as you can see, there's mostly attack decks. Okay, well, the Acacian Javelier's already dealt with an evasive threat that probably was never going to be blocked. You know, there's a Selfless Spirit, which is a little bit of a threat, especially in the mirror. Flying in first strike in the White Weenie mirror tends to be the breaker of the mirror. White Weenie versus Red Deck wins. The crucial cards are basically just play white cards, and you probably are going to win, unless he has like Anarchy. But if he has Anarchy, he could definitely win this. Obviously, it's 2 turns away from being cast because of Thalia. He's got pingers, though, that block well, at a minimum. That's not bad. The life totals do not look good, though. I failed to mention also that so it's Mystical Tutor or Enlightened Tutor. Enlightened Tutor can get the Detention Sphere. Alright, he's going to Brainstorm. This is a tough turn as far as sequencing goes, though, for SpencerBot, to be sure. But I think he'll find the line if it's available. The only issue with Brainstorming is, and if she's an apt player, she'll never even think of countering this, is it requires mana, which mana is king in this matchup. So he didn't have one of the 2 tutors because he would have cast that first. Okay, I think I would have gone for the Figure of Destiny before I'd go for that. But that's just me. I don't know. I could be wrong. You can get some incremental damage off this Thermo Alchemist. Alright, there is that. That cannot be countered, brother. Alright. Pump up the Calciform Pools. I think he runs Force of Will in this build as well, which is not per se wrong. Is this a Detention Sphere? Jace the Mind Sculptor. Okay. This will fetch counter magic out of her hand at a minimum, unless he has, is this like a Miscalc? Okay. He's going to Force of Will it. No, he's not. Okay. Well, unfortunately for him, he knows his top 2 cards. So, the question becomes, like, do you have... If he doesn't have the detention sphere, he's not going to beat this Elspeth. It'll grind him out. So you can probably concede that. The Batter Skull is irrelevant. The Elspeth's really the thing that matters here. A relic that will stop a few things. But now, unless she's drawn well, she's probably out of counter magic, but who knows? Okay, well, if that's it, then I think he's dead. Cryptic Command could keep him alive. Yeah, ML's deck is going to run over a deck that, interesting. What is going on here? Maybe he just has bigger white cards? I don't know. ML's running him over, though. I don't even think he can win this, possibly. Yeah, ML wins the match. Alright, so it looks like it's going to be White Weenie versus White Weenie in the mirror, possibly. But I don't know. I have not given up hope on this red deck beating this white deck. And frankly, I kind of like seeing stuff like that because it's a hard matchup, and I like when players can persevere and see through a very difficult matchup. But that's just me. Some folks just like winning easy. That's fine too. Spellskite in the deck? Interesting. I guess it blanks Oblivion Ring. Alright, yeah, I was going to say, man, go to the second game. If you're playing that thing out, it's not stopping counter magic. It can block for a turn, but the Elspeth's going to make everything, size enormous. So, yeah. That happens. Drew a lot of cards, but probably just not good ones. And that can happen, but I don't think the game was over there when she resolved the Elspeth. Alright, so... do one, get some more land, which is fine because it's going to purify his top deck and what should be a land light deck. But 4 cards in hand for Golden Lyn is quite a few. 2-drop threat could be anything. No, it's a 2-drop enchantment that he has, so he has Crusade or something like that in his hand. Probably Honor the Peer. Honor the Peer is more common than Crusade. Although, obviously, we saw Yellow Eyes was playing Crusade. Which is a dangerous card to play in this metagame because Crusade obviously bumps everyone's white creatures up, and there's a lot of white weenie decks. So, what does he do now? Realistically, needs to draw some of his sideboard hatred, I think. I think he can reasonably expect that these creatures are both going to attack for 3 next turn. On Honor of the Peer, because I think Golden Lyn gave a very sure tell that he had failed to account for his own Thalia math and tried to cast a 3-drop or 2-drop enchantment into Thalia. So I think I would be expecting that if I were his opponent, Bandit Keith. Okay, tapped land, Jace. So does she have Swords to Plowshares? Because Jace is some kind of good in the mirror. Allows you to filter your draw in the early to mid game, and then eventually turn into a Planeswalker threat that gives you card advantage. So it's pretty strong. All right, goes for the Silverblade Paladin. Well, big question is he's probably got burn. I mean, if he's doing nothing with 5 mana, it probably has burn in hand. Does he have an answer to one of those cards? Protection from black probably gives it flying, I guess it'd be. Yeah, just in case he gets blown out by removal on the Silverblade Paladin. This is a stronger line. Okay, is this Bandit casting Stoneforge? Okay. Force of Will. Interesting. I mean, that's a heavy cost. What did she discard here? Or exile? Repeal. Okay. Passing it. Cool. Well, it's very viable that he could flip his Jace. He's obviously land-like, so he didn't fetch there. Fetches. Maybe he's going to cast something here. Maybe like a Preordain or a Ponder. Although if it was Ponder, he probably doesn't fetch first. Preordain, you probably do. Doesn't need to make a land drop, so you can defer the decision to turn Jace sideways for drawing a card and discarding one until her turn. It's solid play. Alright. Well, the clock on the white weenie side looks pretty large. I think if Bandit Keith is without removal here, he's going to find himself dead next turn due to a Crusade effect. Not Crusade per se. He may just be flooded too, I don't know. It looks like he is, actually, in some ways. Alright, there's the Detention Sphere that he so direly needed last game, and an end step, Fact or Fiction, that is likely to suck down counter magic. Nope, it's going to happen, and that's a hell of a pile. My assumption is you take the big pile here. I don't think you need to dig through time. The Jace is going to flip regardless, and a counterspell... Alright, well, I was going to say, now I take the dig through time pile. Yeah, I would take... it's close. I mean... it's close. I think I take the Mystical Teachings and Counter Magic pile, actually, here. Because she's got 5 cards. She's up on cards, so I think you want to fight card advantage. And, like, putting all your eggs in the one basket of Dig Through Time seems kind of weak to me. Plus, Dig Through Time's already good. This is even more interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's close there. Depends on what his hand is. If he has lands in hand, then it's definitely the 2 pile. If he does not have lands, then I think the 3 pile is actually enticing because like this game is going to be won and lost on mana efficiency and mana land count. So, you know, I tend to think that having the ability to make more land drops than your opponent is going to win you more games. So I don't know. It's close. So we're blocking here, which means the game is probably over. You get 1 more damage in, take him down to 10. Takes 4 in the air down to 6. Doesn't ping, so evidently he's kind of, I don't know, maybe he's given up. But you probably should ping there because there are draws that could do it, like, you know, some sort of Flame Blast draw or something like that, or Fire Blast draw. Okay, well, we've got a Jace and we've impulsed. Interesting. Alright, so Jace, the Mind Sculptor, probably getting countered. Yeah, counter draw. Alright, now I think he is very favored to win this game. He's up on lands, up on cards, casting an Elspeth. Yikes! I mean, O-Ring could be a thing, again, but she's on 5 cards now, does 3, but he's got the threat on the board, and he's got a Jace that can just draw back, you know, a Fact or Fiction and just win the game. Bribery is going to get Stoneforge Mystic out of his deck. This card should have been sideboarded 100%. This card is bad in the mirror. She'll get a Stoneforge, but it's like, okay, cool, dude, you have a Stoneforge and a Batterskull, and I have an Elspeth. It's eventually going to make these things, you know, hit for like 21 damage in the air, and I can block your Batterskull every turn. So, I don't like this. Yeah, you can even get Jace. If you get Jace, is bad. I mean, it filters your draw, but eventually it goes back to their side. Yeah, it's a rough matchup. So that one ended. I make the assumption that Golden Lyn won the game. Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's a hard matchup to win. So Spencerbot wins the matchup. Yep, that's what Elspeth does though. You just, you know, that thing hits the board, and if you can't do it, yeah, no hope there. But the cool thing is, actually, no, we're not going to have finals, are we? Or are we? Let me check real fast. So let's report matchings or matchups. Alrighty, so she reported hers. Bandit Keith loses this round, so update. We did see that. Ben Kill versus Ironic Gentleman. Is that still going on? Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't even notice this matchup was going on. I'm sorry. To you two gentlemen as well, I would have liked to highlight your game. Again, I do think that this deck will tend to have a tough time with the aggressive matchups. However, his opponent is on 1 card, and if he has, you know, a Wrath effect, he could just win right here on the spot. Alright, this is going to get Virtue's Ruin, Toxic Deluge, because he has to take the 3 to knock out the whole board. Buried Alive. He's just going to win this turn. Alright, cool. But he's at 4 minutes. I assume he's going to win right now. So he's going to Bury It Alive and then reanimate through probably Necromancy, would be my guess. Or Exhume. What does Exhume do? Does it actually screw him up in any way? No, not really. Not really, because once it's on board, it's not really disruptible through like removal. So like if it was Exhume, Restoration Angel could come back and like flash this thing to flash that thing, but this thing would just eat the whole graveyard in response. So yeah, even if it's Exhume, it's still good. Let's animate dead, and that's game. All right, well I'm sorry I missed your game, Ironic and Ben Kill. It looks like it was probably an interesting one. I'm assuming it's probably a 1-1 matchup right now, or a 2-1 because it just got one. We put Henny's expertise in there. I don't know if that was in there before. That's pretty cool. It's good against the meta for sure. Pardon me, guys. So it appears we will have no finals today. This is our last game, and we'll watch him combo off again. I guess Ben Kill is going to make him go through it because of his clock. And there's the game. I don't know why folks make everyone go through the combo. It's infinite. Well, it's not infinite, but it's 100 cards deep or 60 cards deep or whatever. It's going to hit. I'll be honest. Actually, one time I have made him do it because he was at like 30 cards or something like that when I was playing him. And I'm like, I don't really know what the combined converted mana cost was. I was at 20 life. And but he had it, But I made him show me. I was like, oh, you're on 30 cards? Maybe. Maybe. And like the big ones like Gristlebrand and stuff like that were in the graveyards. I was like, it's possible. It didn't work out, though. Oh, good games, man. Well, okay. It appears, I don't think we're going to have finals today. So we have... ML Berlin's 2-0 against Yellow Eyes. Golden Lyn was 2-0 against Bandit Keith. Golden Lyn 2-0 against him. Against Ironic. And 0-2 against Yellow Eyes. Oh, okay, so actually we are going to have finals. It's going to be White Weenie versus White Weenie. So ML Berlin, 2-1, 2-1, 2-0. White Weenie in the finals. Cool. Okie doke. So, alrighty, finals are up. Alrighty, let's see how these gentlemen are getting along. They already got 3 minutes in, so the game could be very close to over at this point. Alright, we're still in mulligan decision, so I want a quick pause until the game kicks off. Alright, a start. ML wins the die roll, which is pretty big, I think. Does not have a turn 1 play, which actually is good for him because I think you want to have mana development, you want your cards to be more powerful. You don't want to be playing 2-1s in this matchup. You want to be playing, like 2/2 first strikers, stuff like that. When I say powerful, take it with a grain of salt because I'm saying in a relative sense. The first strike ability in this matchup is huge, as is flying. So this is a flyer. It's very good. No flying on this, but a lot of the 1 toughness creatures fold to it because of flanking, which is a very weird ability that I don't think they'll ever bring back because it's very sophisticated and it's kind of weird in how it works. Plus, it can regenerate itself. So unless like 2 mana light decks want to pay 2 to not have it, live through combat, then it'll just live. So flanking, I'll briefly explain how this ability works if you're not familiar with it. Flanking is a combat-based ability that only works in the attacks. Well, correction, it works actively in the attack step and works passively in the defense step. It works actively in that when you attack, if a creature blocks it, that creature gets -1/-1 before any damage ever happens. The way it works passively in the defense step is that if another flanking creature is attacking you, flanking is nullified. That's it, though. It doesn't do anything else in the defense. So it's much more so an offensive ability because there's not a lot of flanking creatures that see play anymore. I believe it was around like Visions or Tempest or something like that. And it was like on cards like Fallen Ascari. This card, which this card's actually, I believe, older. Or possibly newer. I can't remember when this card was printed. Flanking is a pretty cool ability, though. I actually like it. I don't think it's bad. Can't block here, because if he does, it'll become a 1/1 and die. So if Golden Lyn does not know how flanking works, he could erroneously block here, but the card is like already going to win in combat because it regenerates itself. Gets it for 2. The flyer is huge. However, Anafenza Kintree Spirit is going to be pretty big in this matchup, so if he's able to get his own flyer and put some counters on it, that could be very big. I don't think you... interesting. He's going to play 3 lands out. Unmake. Unmake's probably the card in his hand. No, just this Bygone Bishop. So actually, I like Golden Lyn's position now because he has a flyer that is just as big as the flyer that ML has, although his flyer gains him life. And he has a card engine, a flyer, and a way to pump his threats, make his threats better than they are. So Golden Lyn has probably the better draw here, unless ML can respond to some of this. That means he can still attack, which is good. I guess he's going to have to play the aggro here if he doesn't have removal to deal with these threats. But Anafenza Kintree Spirit is great in a race and obviously can provide a lot of value if you can't deal with it right away. Top draws probably like Karakas, although Karakas on Anafenza is going to essentially be a card engine with Bygone Bishop, except very inefficient because clues cost 2 to crack. And Golden Lyn is not a 12, so, that's a thing. The other problem is it's going to be tough for him to actually make the Bygone Bishop bigger because most of his cards he plays, unless he plays like Bramaz here, are not going to be bigger than the Bygone Bishop because it's just it's got a big body. Alright, that's going to get the enchantment, the artifact. And it's going to become a 3/3. And he could possibly even draw a card here, if he wants to, unless he has more threats to play out. Be curious to see if he cracks in or not. It's 50-50. Alright, Kithian. Which will become a 3/2 on the ground. Yeah, I'm liking ML's position less and less at this point, obviously, because Golden Lyn basically this is a pretty perfect opener for a White Weenie deck in the White Weenie mirror. Not in there's a lot of other matchups where it's actually actively bad, but in the mirror it's very strong. You actually want to keep hands that have slightly overcurved creatures that you can still cast with it, make land drops on. So you can go slightly bigger than your opponent, and if they can provide you cards and can do horizontal grow for your cards, that's pretty good. Pretty much, I don't know if you can get better than that. Yeah, I'm sure you can, but you probably still attack with your flyer just to gain the life. Hope he makes a miss block. I guess if he has a spell, he could pump the knight as well. Actually, the knight still wins in combat because of flanking, right? Yeah, it does. He's trying to just flat out race here. If he has a pump spell, he probably uses it on the aerial responder. Ooh. This is a huge misplay. He must not have known what flanking did. So this thing will die in combat, but the knight will not die because it regenerates itself. Knight's a weird card. Let me pull it up. I'm talking about it, but I haven't shown you guys the card text. Where's the preview panel at? There it is. So here's Knight. Once MTGO catches up with me. Come on, Moto. Flanking, 2/2. At this point, 3/3 because of that enchantment or artifact. Knight. If Knight of Holy Nimbus will be destroyed, regenerate it. Pay 2, any player may pay it, and Knight cannot be regenerated this turn. Which means it's a very good card against control decks. It's good in the mirror. And that was a pretty big blowout against Golden Lyn there. I liked how ML played that. forced him to make the decision. And, I think he probably did that not understanding the rules text, to be honest with you. Just because if you don't do it, right? But his hand is awesome. Like, his hand and draw has been stellar this game. Like, he's going to, a Johnny something. Probably the Bygone Bishop. But it has been a little slow. Okay, well, the Bygone Bishop can now have the arrow responder bounce off of it. And this is upkeep trigger, right? Yeah, it is. Yeah, so if this thing gets to flip, that's also very strong. What are the best draws for ML? Caracas would be very good because he could flip one of these cards and just reduce his mana efficiency by a whole bunch. Probably Anaphens would be the one I'd flip. This thing will turn over and become a 4/4. Or a 5/5, I'm sorry. Because of the Hall of Triumph. Ooh. That will likely group up with the Arrow Responder, be my guess. Which is strong. Means he really can't block it anymore. I think this is kind of greedy. Yeah, I think it's a little greedy. The thing really can't be successfully blocked either way. I think you attack with all. You just turn everything sideways. Yeah, there you go. Force him to make the hard choices here. Because anything he blocks with is going to die. I mean, it may trade, but it's going to die. With the exception of the Arrow Responder on the Bygone Bishop. But if Bygone Bishop's not blocking the Arrow Responder, then the Arrow Responder is hitting him for 3 damage here, which is not bad. And this Westvale, whatever this thing is, whatever it flips into, Westvale Cult Leader, is going to essentially become the Abyss here, which is another way of gaining card advantage, I suppose. Okie doke. So this thing has double strike, bro. He must have removal. I don't know. This is really interesting to me. He's taking 6. Maybe he has a trick. It's very possible. Oh, I know what he's trying to do. He's going to kill that other threat, so that threat will shrink. But it doesn't have first strike, so it doesn't do it before combat step. Because that would have shrunk the Westvale Cult Leader, so it's not going to work the way he wants it to. Yeah, he's just going to lose his whole board. And ML will get a free threat, which is now a 3/3, I believe. Or a 2/2. And he's drawing cards, which, if you can keep board parity, drawing cards is fine. But now the board parity is strongly gone into ML's favor. And a card like a Johnny without creatures is obviously embarrassing. And Ultimating, I believe, takes 8. Yeah, 8 loyalty. So it's a tough sell. You're not going to get to that point. The game will end long before then. It doesn't even have to kill it. Selfless Spirit. It's a fine card. But it's going to take many fine cards to stop this. That can't even block, so it's kind of an irrelevant. Especially with him on 25 life. Mother of Runes. Okay. Well, I suppose he can block 2 things and sack the Selfless Spirit in response. I think the counter... I don't know what you do with the counter. I think you have to put it on Mother of Runes, actually. Because you're going to sack that thing, so you're losing value. But you have to sack that thing. And the Knight cannot be blocked. I mean, it can, but it will just kill whatever blocks it. Like, Knight actually gets around Mother of Runes blocking it, because if Mother of Runes blocks it, even if it says Protection White, like, the flanking will just still kill it, because it's an ability. I mean, it's a... How do you call it? It's a trigger. It's a triggered ability. You attack with all here, I assume. Just get them all in there, man. Like, the Knight should get in there, too. Interesting. Doesn't attack with his Silverblade Paladin. I don't know if it's relevant or not. So you can only block 2 things. The Shadow means it cannot block. So does this mean he can live? Yeah, it does, actually. He can block the Westvale Cult Leader on the Mother of Runes and block the Arrow Responder with the Flyer, sack the Flyer, save the Mother, and then he's got a 2/1 and a 1/1 on the board, and a clue and 1 card plus a draw step in hand. ML has not played any spells this turn and still has 3 full mana that he can expend. And I don't know if he really needs to, but he may. I feel like... So, this is how this matchup goes. ML will tend to win in the games that he plays a game. What I mean by that is he's running far fewer lands, like I kind of talked about earlier in this if you're watching the whole event. That said, I think that if he loses, it'll be because he loses to his own deck. If he keeps a hand that's 6 to 7 cards with 1 to 2 land or 2 lands, he'll probably win every time because the deck is designed in a way with 26 lands that it just runs. Like if it has the lands in the starter hand, it won't draw anymore. It should not, and it'll draw better than the opposing White Weenie match or the White Weenie deck. In the same way, that will tend to also overrun the control decks if it has the right draw. If it does not, then it'll just sit there and like allow them to set up, and then you'll just lose. In this matchup, it could allow Golden just to run him over. But if it goes like it's supposed to go, like with just 3 lands, that's it. As opposed to 5 lands on one less card in library, then it'll run the opposing deck over, which it does here. So he took a pretty strong aggro route. It was able to very solidly put it together, despite a very strong opening from Golden with the card engine plus the horizontal grow style engine in the form of the Offensive Kintree Spirit. So quick pause, guys, until both our players are back for part 2 of this round. All right, guys, back. The round 2 has started. See, with Golden on the play, that is obviously an advantage. Again, like I said, I don't think you want to be playing turn 1 1-drops, and if they are turn 1 1-drops, you probably want them to be Mother of Runes or removal. I don't think either player plays Aether Vial, which I think is probably good because Aether Vial is not good in the mirror. It's actually quite bad in the mirror. Well, it's not horrendous, but it's just you're down a card. Especially if you play it on the play. It's just you're down a card, down a threat possibly. Alright, fetch land. Down to 6 cards, though. 6-card keep, so mulliganing to 6 on the draw is not that bad. Mulliganing to 6 is pretty bad on the play, and I would say mulliganing to 5 on the play is unwinnable. Like, especially as an aggro deck, you just need your cards. Especially in the mirror match, like, they're just going to start off with more cards than you. It looks like ML is going to have a turn 1 play. There's no way that you can, ever keep, like, a perfectly optimal hand. Like, I don't think you really want 2-1s in this matchup, especially ones that don't have first strike, and the protection from multicolored is really only going to be relevant against 2 cards in the whole deck. Those 2 cards are going to be Figure of Destiny and Boros Reckoner. Outside of those 2 cards, I don't think, Soldier of the Pantheon really does anything super relevant. Neither does this card, though, because drawing cards is really not a thing. Well, correction. I suppose that both decks probably do run that new Monarchy card. I can never remember the card's damn name. The 4-mana 2/2 that essentially is a Banisher Priest. Palace Jailer is the card's name. May take me a second to remember card names, guys. I play with a lot of them, and just sometimes I lose them. Okay, so does he have a land drop? No. Ooh, the greed is real. So he's hoping to draw out of a 1-lander on the draw, and only has a turn 1 play. Well, he could just get overrun here. Probably should have mulliganed. And now is going to take this incremental damage. When there's evasive creatures like Soltari Priest, incremental damage is pretty important. We could see him actually path to exile his own creature just to get up on mana, because he's not winning this race whatsoever. Although, I have won games in the mirror on 1 mana before. It's very rare, and it required a Mother of Runes turn 1, but I have done it. It was an exceptionally bad draw. Like, if I drew any 1 land, I ran him over like a lot faster, but I had to play a really weird attritional game with Mother of Runes. Alright, did you hit your land? It'd be interesting to see if this plays out exactly how I was kind of talking about. Like, if he keeps a greedy one, or if he just fails to hit lands, which his deck will tend to do. Like, it can do, because it only runs 26, then he will just get overrun. Yeah, we're probably seeing a greedier keep here. I assume he drew into the Bone Splitter because he cast nothing last turn, which means he's not likely to have 1-mana removal. Yeah, that card's also very good. I mean, it has first strike, and then it has lifelink, which means the Bone Splitter's bad. Actually horrible. He's going to lose 5 life points here, and then be looking at losing half of his life next turn, and be dead the turn after, depending on what Golden Lyn can play. Golden Lyn obviously kept a more land light hand as well, with only 2, but he's been able to play on his threats, which is obviously a huge difference. So we're going to see a missed land drop and a concession here. It feels like that's what we're probably going to see. I think he wanted to start blocking last turn, to be honest with you. I think he wanted to block that Spirit. The Tapper is strong, though. Yeah, you cannot attack here, so you're blocking the Spirit of the Labyrinth, taking 4, down to 8. Golden Lyn will go back up to 17, though, and has an additional threat in the form of a land, which is very strong. And possibly, like, if he has, like, an Always Watching or something here, the game probably just ends. Golden Lyn definitely did not slow roll his Mishra's Factory. Didn't definitely, but it's not very likely he did. So he probably drew that for the turn and is sitting on, like, my guess would be like a 2-3 flyer. No, okay, the 2-1 flyer. Well, basically a flyer with pump magic. But this card also is very good in the mirror. And unfortunately, even though it is multicolored, I didn't think of it because it's probably a board card, it does blank the Soldier of the Pantheon because Soldier of the Pantheon cannot block protection from white cards. So how does this deck remove that card? It probably has to have like a Sword of Fire and Ice to do so. Or a Mishra's Factory of its own and like catch them out, or a Mutavault of its own and catch them out, or Curse Scroll. Curse Scroll could also do it. I wonder if either player plays Curse Scroll on the board. Well, this is probably an unwinnable matchup at this point. Even if he hits mana at this point, he's already committed to using 1 on the Gideon's Lawkeeper. Yep. So, I guess in some ways I feel vindicated that our assessment at the end of Game 1 that ML Berlin quite handily steamrolled Golden Lyn was pretty accurate. If this deck does not hit its mana sources, it will lose very rapidly. If it doesn't keep a good opening hand with like 2 to 3 mana sources, it's gonna lose. It's like I think like over 80% to lose, because just when you're running 26, like your probability of hitting them is not high. Like it's just not. Like you're fighting to make land drops every turn if you don't keep a hand that's reasonable with a lot of them in it. So my assumption is after ML concedes this game, after seeing his draw step, because even if it's land here, it's too late. We're going to Game 3, though. Like, this is not winnable. There are not cards. I guess if he has Terminus and he miracles it right now, he could win. Even then, he still has the Mishra's Factory on the other side, which I don't think he's playing that card. That would be bad in his deck, but just saying. So, when you run 33 with fetch lands like Golden Lyn is, you have this going for you. One, if you keep a land light opening hand, you will tend to draw into more lands because you just run more. But in the mid to late game, if you've sacked 1 to 2 fetch lands, your land count is essentially the same as like a 29 to 30 land deck. Which is kind of how I build my versions of White Weenie or Death and Taxes to run. I think, I still think that like if ML gets the draw he needs, like the very specific 7-card opener, that he'll probably be able to beat my White Weenie deck. But if he doesn't and he has to go to 5 or 6, then I feel like it advantages me highly, and I feel like my deck will tend to run better on its own. So that's kind of what I mean when I say, like, if his deck wins, it's going to win because he kept that opener, and if it doesn't win, it's going to tend to lose because it beats itself. Which is what it did here. His deck just beat him here. Like, he didn't really play a game of Magic. He just didn't have lands and didn't draw into them and lost because he's, you could say variance, but when you're running 26, you're testing your luck there. You're essentially trying to play White Weenie as red deck wins, as opposed to just making it a hyper consistent deck, which is kind of where I see its power. I think this deck, if built correctly, can be very, very consistent, which is dangerous against control decks that are requiring specific cards to answer a high volume of threats. Probably have like 4 to 5 of them in their deck, which, they have a lot of manipulation. They can eventually probably get to them, but some of them are even resilient to that. You like reference the Flank Knight that we saw before, or the flying Selfless Spirit, or Hallowed Spirit Keeper. Those cards are all great versus Wrath effects. So, I definitely mean it when I say it. I think this is the best aggressive deck as the format sits right now. I think if we were to cut sideboards, which is an option I think should be strongly considered, then I think that would make red deck wins a lot more viable. It would still be bad against White Weenie. However, I think it would tend to level the playing field because there's reasons to play White Weenie over. There's reasons to play White Weenie over cards like that. Google ballot, I think, is what it is. I'm sorry I'm doing this right now, guys, but I have to set this up. Google polls. Polls, that's right. All right. Look at a trade here. Cool. Looks like the trade will happen. I'm not really asking to do this. I just want to do it. Sorry I'm doing this right now, guys. I have to set up the poll real fast so I can send out the URL to all my players. And I just need to get a URL set up. Maybe it's Google Forms. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. I just forgot. Go to Google Forms. Come on, you. Okay, ML is handily winning this. Well, he's done 2 cards. But he's got a Tapper plus Caracas, Expend Swords to Plowshares. It's too bad he didn't flip the... Alright, so Tari Monk. That can be tapped, though. All right. Sorry I'm doing this, guys. And let me fix this question. I'm sorry. I'm a geek for correctness, even though if I stink. Yeah, I stink mostly at typing. And my spelling's terrible, but that's the next one. Oath. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I am good with that, though. Yeah, that's the thing about Berlin's deck, though, is it beats itself. And I don't know if you watch these videos, and this one's probably not very good because I've been putzing around doing other things while the matches are going on. But Golden Lynn is actually jumping ahead here. I mean, he could, actually, he's going to make a comeback possibly. The double striker is definitely not irrelevant. But 2 cards to 0. What are his 2 cards? And the Gideon's Lawkeeper is now gone, which was probably his best card for the mirror breaking. There's another one, though. Golden Lynn will gain a bunch of random life. Not really random in this matchup. That card is actually probably pretty decent. What does he have in hand? Let's play the guessing game here. There's no attacks. It's possible he has like a Celestial Flare in hand, which would be strong, or Immolating Glare, or what is the name of the card? The Escalate card. Blessed Alliance would be good here. Banishing Light, probably killing the... I don't know what it would kill here. What is underneath this thing? I mean, it could be the Always Watching. It could be the Tapper. This is an unblockable card. It's going to get the Tapper. Okay. Well, that's a solid draw. I mean, obviously it turns off his loot capability. I think I would have rather looted there, actually. Does he win this turn if he attacks? No. It's for 3, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So that's 6 damage plus... It's 9? It's a lot of damage. Attacking with all. Alright, well, ML has got to have something in hand here. Or else he's probably losing this game. He's looting? Oh, okay. I mean, you know what's funny is like the Phyrexian Revoker actually would have been better for the purpose he used the Banishing Light for it. Or used the Banishing Light for there. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think ML was going to double block there. Alright, well, ML's got nothing then, I suppose. Maybe he had... No, not a Flash Creature either. Maybe he's just all on all land. All air. Alright, Kithian, which is a good blocker. But he's taking 8 damage unblockable. He's on lands. Okay. Well, he should, in an ideal world, just draw gas at this point, because he has 5 lands out of a 26-land deck on 15 cards drawn. So, variance is not favored him this time as far as mana goes. That's kind of an odd draw. That's like variance I could see someone wanting to... Or being comfortable complaining about, because the variance of when you just don't draw lands is like realistic. This is fairly unrealistic draw, so it's going to kind of turn into a non-game. But I think these matches, this game was bound to kind of be a non-game in a couple of the parts of it. I think either ML runs him over or Golden Lynn eventually trits him out. And what it comes down to, I think, is in a lot of ways ML's land draws. Although his deck flooding is a problem that it should pretty much never have. Alright, he ditches a Tectonic Edge, which is a pretty bad card. I guess it does get Caracas if he has a legend in hand, but like it's not like he really needs to play anything to win the game from this point. He has the board dominated. And what did he draw into? Planeswalker, it appears. No, a Dust Bowl. He's just going to Dust Bowl. Which, if I'm ML, I'm like, that's cool, dude. Like, I'd rather you not play more threats that I can't deal with, because there's already enough of those. Well, what do we draw for the turn? Okay, well, you're still taking 2. And this is where always watching is bad, because it can't stop, it can't make these 2/2s, which is obviously a lot better. He's got to double block the Mirran Crusader with the ground-based creatures. He'll lose one of them, and that cannot make the Kithian indestructible anymore. Yeah, he's still dead. I mean, if Golden Lynn just throws the kitchen sink at him, he wins here. And that, that doesn't hurt. That means he can't successfully double block the Mirran Crusader. So there you have it. White Weenie versus White Weenie. I don't tend to like watching these games because, one, I've played a ton of White Weenie, a ton of Death Taxes. And, like, the decks, the White Weenie specific decks tend to just be fishing decks. Like, they're just hoping to draw what they need to draw, and if they don't, then they lose. If they do, then they win. And it's kind of just like, okay, that's one way of playing Magic, and I'm fine with it. This is a bad attack. You probably should attack with everything, including the Smuggler's Copters. If he triple blocks it, he can't. Oh, this kills me, because he cannot triple block the Smuggler's Copter and stay alive. So he could just block this thing, chump it, and you're giving him a free extra draw step here. But, the other thing that kills me about the deck is it extremely good. It's a very extremely good deck if it's built well. And, it tends to allow you to play kind of loose, which I'm not a fan of. I'd rather decks force you to play tight to win with it. Because this was an obvious win here. I mean, not an obvious win, but, it forced him into extremely unfavorable trades. If he wanted to triple block the Smuggler's Copter, then he couldn't block everything else. He needed to and stay alive. And, he just gets an extra draw out of it, which is kind of bad. At this point, though, if he's drawn removal, then he'll snap off the Soltari Priest. And again, we're in a position where he has to chump. We were last turn as well, last turn we were. But hey, what can you do? All right, so now he needs an answer to the Soltari Priest. He can triple block the Smuggler's Copter and single block with indestructibility. Okay, no, he doesn't have it. I was going to say, take very specific cards to get out of this. So, that sounds like it's game. It looks like he's getting hit for lethal here. He probably will not block. I think that'll be the round, guys. White Weenie in the finals. I kind of wish I would have played today because I would have loved snapping up some White Weenie. I love the deck to death, but it's just too much of it, and I feel like folks are just fairly unoriginal about how they play the game right now. We're just seeing a lot of it. And I know for a fact that Golden Lynn has other decks. He's played other decks historically. ML, is his fair share of winning. Probably could transition. I think some players could transition off of it. It's just a very good aggro deck, and if you don't want to do a lot of preparation, it's probably a good deck to bring because it can do that. So the match is over, guys. I'm going to go ahead and congratulate Golden Lynn on his win. And we'll go ahead and call it there, guys. I'm just going to issue the prizes out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tournament. If it's a format that interests you, please join us some Saturday. It's runoffgathering.com. And I put a fair share of videos up to kind of help support the format. This one obviously won't be one of the better ones because I do a lot of talking about events that are not 100-card Singleton. But, hopefully you can find enjoyment in the rounds that we're able to capture here. All right, guys, take care now, and see you next